models in every field, be it business, be it science, be it entrepreneurship, be it politics. So doing this and bringing visibility to women role models and across every aspect of business, kudos to ETPrime for doing it.
I think it's a great thought because a special recognition for different categories. We had 11 categories. And you know, what it did is throw up a lot of women who have really been doing phenomenal work. And once this kind of spreads, right, there is going to be a lot more motivation for people who may be at the cusp or may have just delivered a child or this, so their aspirations will actually grow.
What if you could capture the new? New ideas and technologies and business models? Would that be enough? What if you could apply the ideas and innovations now? Would that take you further? This is the opportunity to harness the possibilities that spring from disruption and transform your business now. New, applied now. 3 simple words behind one singular idea. A promise to work together to take the new and apply it for impact now. In every industry, every country, every day. Accenture. New, applied now.
Awards like this give us a chance to look at standout women, to celebrate them, and to give the push that women very rightly deserve but don't always get. The jury had a really tough time determining who, because the good news is that there was a great choice that was put before us. So a very exciting time, and I think all of us at the jury have come away really excited by being exposed to this opportunity.
Diversity in the workforce is still evolving in India. At the younger level, junior levels, we still see a much higher degree of diversity. But as you go towards the top, the number of women who are breaking through into senior positions is still quite limited. And to have role models shown to them is, I think, a very important part of this whole learning process. So it's great that ETPrime is doing this celebration of women leadership.
So we need to get women to look up and get more role models, get inspired by people who've gone down this path before. And an initiative like this one really showcases women who have made it. And hopefully there are a lot of people watching in the audience, a lot of young women, who then decide that, you know, it's worth sticking down this path.
I think it was much needed and took some time coming, but I'm so happy to see ETPrime take the lead on this to celebrate some really outstanding successes from ladies, from women across different sectors. So not just functional heads, but really breakthrough innovators, startup companies, large companies. It was fantastic.
I think it's a fantastic initiative. I'm very happy that it's finally happened. Anything that we do to recognize the superwomen and promote women in general is a great initiative. It's very hard to pick a winner from the category. I think, to me, all of them look like winners.
Such amazing women leaders coming up in India right now. There just isn't enough, and I don't think there can be enough platforms that recognize them. Young girls need to see women role models in every field, be it business, be it science, be it entrepreneurship, be it politics. So doing this and bringing visibility to women role models and across every aspect of business. Kudos to ETPrime for doing it.
I think it's a great thought because a special recognition for different categories. We had 11 categories. And you know, what it did is throw up a lot of women who have really been doing phenomenal work. And once this kind of spreads, right, there is going to be a lot more motivation for people who may be at the cusp or may have just delivered a child or this, so their aspirations will actually grow.
What if you could capture the new? New ideas and technologies and business models? Would that be enough? What if you could apply the ideas and innovations now? Would that take you further? This is the opportunity to harness the possibilities that spring from disruption and transform your business now. New, applied now. 3 simple words behind one.
May I request everyone to kindly settle down? We are going to be beginning shortly. Do get your fill of tea and coffee and take your seats. And I would request everyone to kindly put their phones on silent mode. And while you keep your phones on silent, do remember that you can tweet about the event with the hashtag ETPWLA. That's it. ETPWLA, ETPrime Women Leadership Awards. Thank you. A woman in harmony with her spirit is like a river flowing. She goes where she will without pretense and arrives at her destination prepared to be herself and only herself. And each time a woman stands up for herself, she stands up for all other women. And with those words by poet Maya Angelou, I welcome you, all the ladies and gentlemen, to the inaugural edition of the ETPrime Women Leadership Awards presented by Accenture. These awards recognize the spirit of endeavor, enterprise, and excellence in accomplished women who have been pushing boundaries every day, one step at a time. Over the course of the evening, we have distinguished business personality, Ms. Anu Aga, sharing her thoughts on nurturing strong leaders. We also have the finest minds of corporate India decoding the leadership playbook and what it takes to stay ahead in the innovation game as a dynamic, AI-driven work environment builds up. And that's not all. We have some fun moments by stand-up comedian Daniel Fernandez and some music and lyrics by renowned Mumbai band Dharavi Reloaded. And now, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may I request Mr. Shishir Prasad, the editor of ETPrime, to come on stage and walk us through the journey of the inaugural ETPrime Women Leadership Awards. Over to you, Shishir.
Thank you, Lopa. Distinguished guests, nominees, members of the award jury, and colleagues. It is a privilege to welcome you to the inaugural ETPrime Women Leadership Awards. This is a special occasion for two specific reasons. One, of course, are the awards, but also ETPrime. More than 18 months ago, the Times Internet Vice Chairman, Satyen Gajwani, articulated his vision for making India's most trusted and biggest media brand ready for the future. ET Paper remains the flagship that it always was. ET Digital, which you will know by the URL www.economictimes.com, is the largest and the most visited website, business website in the country. Now, what next? And that's how the genesis of ETPrime came about. It is a first members-only, subscription-led product. And I would argue that it's probably the first established media greenfield investment in a new business model, which is a subscription-led model. What was the mandate? Our mandate is to get the story behind the story, get the pattern behind the numbers, decode the complexity of information flow for the senior executives or business executives. And so we told ourselves three things: be insightful, be rigorous, and be relevant. In the last 11 months of our existence, every week, we've tried to deliver in-depth, long-form usually, sharply focused contents to our early believers, most of whom are senior leaders from finance, technology, startups, pharmaceuticals, and healthcare industry. And as we come close to completing a year, we also have a small special thing. We have a new logo, and I request the team to just give us a sneak peek of what the logo is going to look like. Can we have the logo up here, please? Right. Thank you very much. Just the way ETPrime is a pioneering effort, so is this ETPrime Women Leadership Awards. The numbers tell the story. According to a recent study, and I must read these numbers out, they're fairly stark. Out of the 1,814 CEOs and MDs of NSE companies, only 67, that's about 3.69%, are women. And this number really hasn't changed over the last 5 years. In 2014, it was about 3.2%. And so even those people who are in these leadership positions would have taken efforts like which were started about 5 to 7 years back. So sure, I mean, what can you do? You can change policies, you can adjust for inclusion. What else? And I would argue that there is a role for aspiration. When you look at successful leaders, there is that aspect that if they can achieve it, so can you. And which is exactly why we have these awards. We sincerely hope that these awards going forward will play a part. Now, the most important thing, to get anything new off the ground, you need a set of early believers. And I would submit to you that the ETPrime Women Leadership Awards jury played that very important role. I remember it was about a couple of months ago, it was late at night, we were sending out juror invitations. And in about an hour's time, we got a reply from a couple of the invitees that they said, great initiative, I'm in it. And that's when we knew that we were on to something special. So I'd like to acknowledge jury chairperson Naina Lal Kidwai, chairman Altigo Capital, Rekha Menon, chairman and senior managing director Accenture India, Deep Kalra, founder and CEO Make My Trip, Devjani Ghosh, president NASCOM, Kaku Nakate, president and India country head Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Meena Ganesh, CEO and MD Portia, Aisha Disikwera, co-country head and head of investment banking India, Morgan Stanley, and our own Gautam Sinha, CEO of Times Internet. They rigorously evaluated and shortlisted the winners. Well, in a very small way, ETPrime editorial team and our knowledge partners, Accord, played a part by trying to make the job easier for them, take a list of about 400 candidates, put them through a financial and corporate governance grinder, and then spit out about 70 names, which they had to kind of go through. So all that hard work is can now be turned into an evening of celebration of exemplary leadership. I would like to thank you to take your time out for being a part of it, and I'll hand it over back to our host for the evening, Lopa. Thank you.
Thank you, Shishir. And now it gives me great honor to introduce our keynote speaker for the evening, Ms. Anu Aga, who is resilience personified. For someone who had to face a series of adversities and take over the reins of a corporation the size of Thermax, reluctantly and without warning, she has embodied both compassion and courage. Setting aside personal grief, sacrificing her own emotions, she made the Thermax family her own, but put people first. No wonder then that the corporation thrived and grew steadily under her stewardship. To me and to almost every woman and man who has read about her, met her, and worked with her, she remains an abiding inspiration. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Ms. Anu Aga with a hearty applause.
Good evening, friends. Thank you, Economic Times, for asking me to share my thoughts on leadership. I'm not the usual corporate leader who was groomed to take over a family business, nor do I belong to the category of a professional who had to climb my way up the corporate ladder. By training, I'm a social worker, but destiny had other things in store for me, and I found myself in the corporate world. Hence, what I'm sharing today about leadership is not out of a textbook or what one is taught at management schools. This is based on my personal experience. Let me briefly define my idea of an ideal leader. To me, that one such person was and continues to be Gandhiji. He is like a North Star, where a leader may never reach, but following him will help her to navigate towards her stretch goals. Most of the attributes of such a leader can be applicable to any sector, be it corporate, social, or political. I was asked to give my thoughts on how to nurture more women leaders in India and the world. This is a wide-ranging topic, and hence I will not focus on the external factors that come in the way of women achieving leadership positions. Instead, I would like to touch upon two emotions, largely their own creation, which continue to trouble women and come in the way of their growth. Most women, at least in India, battle with two debilitating emotions, guilt and lack of self-confidence. Can women have faith in their own competence and not keep doubting their capabilities? Can they dare to be the kind of women they want to be, rather than molding themselves as expected by others? I'm not aware of many men suffering from such emotions. Any men in the audience having guilt? But I have come across successful leaders among women who still harbor a lot of self-doubt and guilt. Guilt can manifest itself for not being available to the family or not being able to give their best at work. I urge women to work on these very crippling emotions and their effect on self-worth. This means that women will have to confront and change the scripts that were handed over to them in their early growing up years by families and communities. It can be a daunting experience, but you will find that it opens up many opportunities. Who makes a great leader? As I see it, A leader must know how to lead her own life successfully before she earns the right to lead others. She must walk the talk and lead by example before she expects others to follow. If a leader is centered and secure within, she will lead from a personal power rather than her positional power. In an organization, an employee operating from a personal power, but not necessarily designated as a leader, will command respect and people will naturally follow her. As a leader, she should be able to mobilize her own extraordinariness and facilitate her employees to tap into theirs. It is easier for an individual to define herself as ordinary because then she could be complacent, delivering just what the role expects from her. But when she is in touch with her extraordinariness, she must push herself to give off her best. Gandhiji was an ordinary human being, but in Africa, he tapped into his special side. He eventually mobilized an entire nation to get freedom without violence, though, of course, the twists and turns of our subcontinental history left us with the violent legacy of partition. By harnessing the extraordinary side of herself, a leader may accomplish many difficult and impossible tasks. For such accomplishments, the world may shower her with awards and rewards, and she may end up with a bloated ego, forgetting that she also has an ordinary self within her. A healthy balance to tap her extraordinariness and at the same time accepting her ordinary self will keep her well-grounded. Showing her vulnerability by saying, "I don't know," or "Sorry, I've made a mistake," humanizes the organization because the fact is, nobody on this earth can be expected to have all the answers and never make mistakes. Having a sense of humor in large dose is what enables a leader to laugh at herself and not carried away and develop an overinflated ego. Such a leader will respect the opinion of others and will be open to learning and collaboration. A leader realizes that skills can be hired, but wisdom is what she has to provide. Wisdom is learning from life's experience. Such a leader will surround herself with people who are far more competent than herself and not get threatened by them. In a lighter vein, knowledge tells us that a tomato is a fruit, and yet wisdom tells us not to use it in a fruit salad. Wisdom also means coming to terms with the transitory nature of position and accept the fact that institutions continue as individuals come and go. Such a leader will plan her succession at every stage. The word succession is such a logical option, but it is difficult because it means coming to terms with the fact that we are all dispensable. What are some of the responsibilities of a leader? In India, we all crib about corruption and yet in our personal capacity keep adding to it. We often get enamored of success and pursue profits and acquiring wealth to the exclusion of everything else. As a leader, can we take a stand about adhering to governance and the pursuit of wealth on a foundation of enduring values? As my late husband Roynton used to say, profit is not just a set of figures, but of values. As a corporate leader, my responsibility is not only towards the shareholders, but towards all the stakeholders, which includes my employees, customers, vendors, the environment, and the community. For any organization, profit and growth is a must, but is not enough. I came across a striking passage which states this very well. The business of business is to grow and make profits, or else it will die. However, if that is the sole purpose of business, then also it should die, for it has no reason for its existence. For a human being, breathing is a must for survival, but that cannot be the purpose of living. A true leader helps the organization to move beyond growth and profits to find the larger purpose. It is not enough for a corporate to give the mandatory 2% towards CSR. It is important for a leader to enthuse the employees to be involved and to contribute individually their time, skills, and resources to help the vulnerable sections of society and work towards overall welfare and harmony. Let us remember that business cannot survive in a society that fails. Apart from reaching out to the deprived, denied, and discriminated against, does a leader have any responsibility towards speaking up against grave injustice? We are living at a time when the world seems to regress in many ways. Rampant prejudice and bigotry are damaging institutions and conventions that the global community nurtured for people to live in interdependent and productive lives. Everywhere, walls are coming up to divide and separate people. Each leader will have to make her choice and decide which cause she would like to take up. For that to happen, a leader must come out of a comfort zone and take the risk of questioning and upsetting the establishment. She should be prepared to be unpopular while upholding her courage of conviction and be able to appeal to the finer selves of the people she leads. Leaders will do well to heed Amartya Sen's warning. Silence is a big enemy of social justice. However brilliant, dazzling, and successful a leader may be, a wise one has to internalize the following. Our stay on this earth is short, our roles dispensable, and our impact inconsequential. The frontiers of leadership are open to those who venture out with open minds and feeling hearts to leave the world a more humane and a better place. Significantly, that journey to change the world can take us deep into our real selves where our extraordinary powers lie dormant. As Gandhiji reminds us, as human beings, our greatness lies not so much in being able to remake the world. That's the myth of the atomic age, as in being able to remake ourselves. Thank you very much.
Truly said that a true leader is one who pushes the organization beyond profit and has humor, empathy, and is able to walk the talk. Thank you, Ms. Aga, for that illuminating talk on what the responsibilities and challenges remain for the leadership community. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we turn to our first segment for the evening, creating trillion-dollar enterprises and how the leadership of India Inc. can step up to achieve that goal. Is it just talent, skill, risk-taking abilities, or innovation? Or is it a blend of all these? What defines a good leader who can elevate a company to a trillion-dollar level? And to answer that, may I introduce the first panel, Ms. Aisha De Siqueira, Co-Country Head and Head of Investment Banking India, Morgan Stanley. Mr. Gautam Sinha, Chief Executive Officer, Times Internet Limited. Ms. Kanika Tekriwal, Chief Executive Officer, Jet Set Go Aviation Services Private Limited. Ms. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, Chairperson and Managing Director, Biocon. Ms. Shama Fernandez, my Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, IFMR Capital. And moderating this panel will be Ms. Abha Bakaya, Senior Anchor of ET Now. Over to you, Abha.
Good evening, everyone, and what a fabulous panel we have here today. Beacons of entrepreneurship, leadership, and women and men that we look up to, and who are really all about creating a culture for the next generation, one full of opportunity. So without further ado, and let's really get into this. Kiran, let me come to you first. You know, what do you feel really the playbook looks like when we are entering a world which is changing so rapidly? Entrepreneurship has become the buzzword. Everybody wants to go out there and have an opportunity to create and to scale. Do you feel that there is enough of an ecosystem to really support and encourage that?
Well, if you think about what's happening to the world today, we are very rapidly moving into a digital world. And I think if you look at what it takes to make a huge, vibrant, scalable ecosystem, I think we need a huge infrastructure of digital capabilities, which we have. You know, I think we have the first big ingredient, which is about our ability to use technology in a very intelligent way. We are doing it for the world, we can do it for ourselves. Now I look at the other aspect. You know, we are talking about creating a trillion-dollar enterprise out of India. And can we do it? I think the answer is an emphatic yes. And why do I say that? Because if you look at India, we have the scale that we need as a marketplace. It's a huge consumer marketplace. It's a huge innovation marketplace. And if you think about what's disrupting the world economy in terms of these crazy valuations, we are in a virtual world. It is about a virtual economy, and the whole concept of a trillion-dollar enterprise is about the unlimited potential of any enterprise to grow. And the digital world is actually making you think about that, you know, disrupting what we conventionally thought about of potential growth measurements. That's being defied, that's being disrupted. So, you know, I'll come to this later on, but I really think, why is Amazon a trillion-dollar enterprise? Why is Apple a trillion-dollar enterprise? I think it's all about building on very innovative digital platforms. Unfortunately, I belong to the pharma world, and we are a very highly regulated bricks and mortar organization even now. And I don't think you'll see a trillion-dollar pharma enterprise unless we use our platforms, digital platforms, in different ways. But I think there's a lot of opportunity for India and Indian enterprises in the digital space to pursue that trillion-dollar aspiration.
Absolutely, and being modest there, because till date, Kiran is constantly innovating within her industry as well. Gautam, you know, just to take that point forward, you know, when we're talking about tech, and you're at the forefront of it, you're overseeing, you know, properties in so many different industries, you know, what's the kind of boom that you're seeing, the kind of growth potential? Because $1 trillion, it's not just the value game, but it's also the fact that everybody wants to see it in a much faster period of time today.
Sure. So the earliest example of how long it takes to build $1 trillion, even for Amazon, is about 20 years. But for most of the companies, it's, you know, 45, 50 years. That has historically been the timeline to create something of that value. While I do agree that a lot of the $1 trillion enterprises in the future will be tech-enabled or disrupted through tech, the fundamentals of creating a large enterprise will not change, which is the culture, the people, and the exceptional customer experience. You know, most of the disruptive business models will be led by tech, and you know, and that will give a path to $1 trillion in a slightly compressed time than some of the other industries which had to fight the brick and mortars to be able to scale, or the legislation or things like that to be able to scale. I'll stop here right now.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Aisha, you've seen companies world over. You've interacted with so many different managements. Where are you seeing the potential, and what is the change you're seeing today when you're looking at some of these companies, the kind of potential, and women at the helm of some of these companies?
So, I agree clearly with what has been said already in terms of, technology being sort of a common platform across anything that will happen. Even if you're not going to be a trillion-dollar company, you are going to need to invest a lot in technology in order to scale up and differentiate yourself in this time. I think the other thing is clearly going to be access to capital. A lot of these models that happen are unprofitable to start with, but the potential is huge. And therefore, one needs to be able to attract capital and attract capital consistently. And that is going to come with good corporate governance, very strong management teams and depth, and credibility of delivering on what has been talked about. So I think those are fundamental requirements in order to get the capital that one is going to need in order to become $1 trillion. And I think one other thing is, I think the ability to talk across generations. I think the new companies that come up are going to be companies where the ideas are from the millennials and people at a different generation than the current management teams, and therefore listening to what your employees have to say and really learning from them in many ways is also going to be the differentiator.
Culture seems to be the key word, and we'll come back to that in a moment. But Shama, talking about access to finance and capital, essentially, you've been very active in trying to make sure that it's accessible to a larger number of people, that it's, the buzzword here being inclusion. Talk to us about that, why you feel that's important, and the headways you're making there.
That's right. So, I think if we just simply look at opportunities and where that might come, I think the potential of what really India holds today goes far beyond the top 10 metro cities of the country. And if you really look deeper, you will see the vast majority of Indians with all kinds of products and services unavailable to them. I think that's a huge opportunity. And I see some of the largest enterprises and companies coming up in that space. If you really looked at that space and looked at the promise that space offers, there's a little bit of that that we've done in the financial inclusion space. And just to give you a sense of the scale, it's a fairly young company. We've looked at providing access to capital in the last decade, and we've done close to 70,000 crores in a decade. You're talking about really small loans. You're talking about loan sizes from 5,000 to 100,000. So my point really is to say that those big enterprises will come from those really unobvious spaces in the landscape of India. And I think those are the things we should really look forward to. Those are the opportunities, really.
Kiran, do you agree? Do you already see that in terms of the larger landscape of India, the kind of women leaders or entrepreneurs that we're seeing across the board, or would you feel it's still limited to where the opportunities lie, and that perhaps could be the bigger metros?
No, I think what Shama is saying is we are beginning to see signs of that, because yesterday I was at a very interesting new initiative, We Hub in Hyderabad. And I must say that what I heard, what was happening in terms of nurturing women-led startups, was very encouraging for me to see that they went beyond the metros, that they're actually seeing some very interesting business models in rural India. And why not? I think there's a lot happening in rural India which really is below the radar. And I think we really need to find ways of, getting them out of that dark arena and getting them to be visible, because I think out of those can actually come some very nice big ideas. I think what we need to really focus on, as Aisha said, is really about access to capital at the right time. Of course, any of these disruptive technology-led enterprises will have to invest big time in innovation. And that's not cheap. taking a big idea to the market is not inexpensive. We must remember that. Yes, whilst we can do things in an affordable way, yet to aspire so big requires a lot of investment. And I think that access to capital is going to be very important, especially when you come from the rural heartland of this country.
So I'm going to come back and ask both of you what the ideal, let's say, 3 steps would be and what entrepreneurs miss, really. But let me bring Kanika in here, because being that you're from this new generation of jet setters and entrepreneurs that have made a mark in the tech world, share with us your experiences, how you feel perhaps your challenges may have been different different today in this new dynamic era.
Surprisingly, Abba, I don't think capital has ever been a constraint. Okay. If you have a great team, if you've got the right ethics, if you're honest, transparent, I think capital follows you wherever you go. We've never made a pitch deck in the last 6 years of our existence. We've never reached out to investors. I was asked for a pitch deck very recently, and I was like, okay, that's been on my to-do list for 6 years. But we've had customers walk up to us and said, we want to be part of your company, we want to be part of your business. My first investment came to me without a term sheet. We signed the term sheet 1 year later. I know, I shouldn't be saying that publicly.
Is that the norm, though? Is that the norm? No, but, were you lucky?
I think we were also lucky, but I also think, if you're doing what's really missing in a lot of friends that I see who are on the same stage as I am, etc., is that we're not looking at building long-term sustainable businesses. A lot of people are focusing on, what makes the headlines is so-and-so raises X million dollars. Sure. Whereas what should be making the headlines is, since 5 years since inception, so-and-so's EBITDA is this, or so-and-so has, impacted so many lives. So I think, in India specifically, we're glorifying businesses with the amount of money they're raising, sure. And that's becoming a milestone to success vis-a-vis what is the value we're actually adding to the whole ecosystem.
So, Aisha, where's the root of that problem? Is it with the entrepreneurs? Is it with the investors? Or is it with the media? I shouldn't say that, but
See, I think ultimately, the rubber hits the road. And if you don't deliver, you're not going to get, the next funding that you need. And therefore, really building and delivering on business plans and what has been laid out is critical for success. Now, clearly, when one is going to disrupt, it's never going to be where you started and where you end is not going to be at the same point. You're going to evolve along the way. But I think transparency, credibility of just being honest and admitting to mistakes and driving innovation, I think is what people want. So I think that the third part, which is actually critically important, is to really think big. Today, I think that's what you need. If you are going to build something huge, is the ability to really think big. And, that articulation of that journey may be through many steps, sure. But trying to understand where you're going to go. I think we in India, as Kiran said, are blessed with the fact that we've got such a large domestic opportunity ahead of us. Very few countries have the structural growth today that India can talk about. And so it's how does one capitalize on it? How does one take Indian ideas overseas is, what people want to fund.
No, I agree with you. And I think what we really need to focus on are building these important platforms that can be scaled big time. So when Aisha talks about, having this big idea, yeah. Today, the one company that comes to your mind is Jio, right? Everyone would say that. Why? Because it is a very important digital platform, which is not about a telecom company, sure. But it's about really, making sure that you multiplex all what is possible on a digital platform. Flipkart had it going for it, but it decided to exit, right? And it sold to a multinational conglomerate. But I think there are many such opportunities. I think we have, banking, e-banking sector is going to provide such a platform. You've got the Paytms, which have suddenly come into the news again for the same reason that Kanika talked about, that they just raised another big round of capital that valued them much higher. But I think what is important is not to get mesmerized by the amount they are, attracting, but by the kind of platforms they are creating. Because it is these platforms that will really build scale, because digital platforms are limitless. And they are globally reaching. So there's very few businesses that can do that so fast. Yes, every pharmaceutical company is talking about digital marketing and things, but we are a very regulated market. And when you look at us as a sector, it is about what does the world need? But sure, I think there are various business models that are becoming very interesting for the pharma sector. But going back to digital companies, it is such an unlimited potential, and that's what makes it exciting, and that's what creates the value.
Absolutely. So,
Can I
yes,
just take
go
a-
for it, Shama.
Yeah. So I completely agree that digital is the big one, but because I deal with sort of the vastness of the Indian market, I do think that education is going to be something absolutely critical to really get us there, because it is happening. It's happening. Probably happening in a very, very rapid manner, but may not be happening in exactly in exactly the qualitative manner in which you really need it to happen. I just read today morning about this kid from Mumbai who's got a 1.2 crore job at Google. Well, it didn't take him to go to IIT and IIM and get a PhD in finance to get there. So I think if we can sort of think about education as preparing ourselves for that big journey of a country that's really going to be up there, I think that is going to be as transformational as things like technology and so many things, which in some sense seem a lot more obvious. And India as a country has always been known for valuing education a lot more. But I think we need to sort of get back to the basics and push a little more on that front.
Education and even mentorship, I'm sure, and you've spoken about that a lot, and the fact that we need to create that culture a lot more, with a lot more intent.
Yeah, so I think I completely agree. I mean, I think education is a double-edged sword. If you don't have it, I think it's going to be one of the biggest bottlenecks to our growth. Because today, lots needs to be done in terms of, the vast number of educational institutes that we have, where one potentially sometimes graduates without really the ability to be productive right away. So we need to innovate in education, and people are doing some fabulous things. Clearly, I think mentorship and, more importantly, sponsorship is important in order to attract, retain your best people. And increasingly, all of us are using the words inclusion. It's not just important to sponsor and to mentor, but it's important that everybody who's there feels included within the organization and feels, that they can achieve their full potential there and therefore remain there. So I think those are some of the things that we need to work on if we are going to develop these very large organizations in the next 20 years.
Shrotam, how are organizations like yours adapting to this new environment and creating that culture?
Sure. I'll just take a minute to add to the same point. I think we should differentiate between digital and technology, right? So education, in addition to education, I think healthcare, agriculture, these are all high potential. And if you actually deploy good technology in that, not necessarily digital, you can significantly change the dimensions. $1 trillion is a very large number. So no one can say, how to reach there. But it's a good step to look at what kinds of tech you can use in various areas to be able to multiply and bring efficiency in terms of scale. That's a perspective. I certainly run a digital organization which has 40 brands, span across news content, music, Ghana, video, MX, sports, ClickBuzz, and a lot of food tech and transaction properties.
How many women are in this organization?
I expected that question, so I'm prepared for it. So last year we had set a target we were at 27%. And we had set that diversity for us should grow 3% as a conscious effort. I just got a report day before yesterday that we are at 30%, and we were able to.
That's far above the industry average, by the way.
So digital is something we are looking at. We started as a media company. We moved to a media plus kind of mindset, and the culture we have tried to build is very entrepreneurial within the Times Internet Limited ecosystem. When looking at how to drive synergy across multiple businesses, build technologies at par with the world, and be able to engage, inform, and entertain our users as much as we can.
Kanika, share with us, some of the women that we look up to, and some of them are on stage with us today. And a lot of you have spoken about ethics and values and building a very conscious culture, that's transparent and so forth and enduring, as Anu said. When you come across challenges today in the current tech environment, how do you solve them, and how do you try and inculcate some of these values?
I think it's very easy to slip up. Every day you're tempted to take a shortcut, which has a very fine line between what's ethical and unethical. Every single day you're challenged to, just to give you a simple example, we do a lot of business. We're more of a B2B driven organization than a B2C driven organization. You come across a lot of situations where for the want of growth, if that's the diplomatic way to put it, you're offered to do certain things which are rather simple to do. And every single day you're tested against your own ethos and morals that, would you cross that line to do this? And I think 60% of the team that reports to me is probably twice my age or 2.5 times my age. So, for them, it's standard modus operandi, and they come and tell me, they're like, why aren't you doing this? We won't grow, we won't do this, you're stunting the company's growth. India aise chalta hai, desh aise chalta hai. And my whole reason for setting up this business was to change the way things work in this country. So I think, it's rather challenging at times to get your point across. A lot of times, I'm being told that don't try to change the world, do it, you've got to do what's right for your business, and you conscientiously keep testing yourself that, would you do something that's wrong in your dictionary? So I think it's very easy to slip, and it's very, very hard to consistently convince your team that it's all right to run a slower race than do it the wrong way. But change comes over time, change is hard, and if you're trying to build a great business that's going to change the way the world flies, you've got to do it one step at a time. So yeah, I think every single day you face these small litmus tests, which you've got to keep pushing aggressively against, saying that, no, I will do what I think is right and go the right path.
So, while we've established India is a booming opportunity and there's so much growth potential here, Kiran, where do you feel the challenges still remain for women leaders or for women who are aspiring to become leaders?
Well, I think there are a number of challenges. First and foremost, I think there still is a huge societal mindset problem. And I think education has to actually improve that mindset. Then, of course, it is about a very, strong bias that we have within corporate India. When it comes, I always say this is an elevator pitch. So the real elevator pitch is about, yes, at the entry level, there's a good balance of gender, ratio in that sense. Most companies, when you talk to them, will say, yes, at an entry level, we almost have a 50-50 gender ratio. And as you move up the organization, there's a leaky pipe, and, the numbers get fewer and fewer. And then there comes this point where it's that critical elevator that gets you to the top, right? And who gets onto that elevator is a small number of people, because the capacity of the elevator for the leaders is very small. And that's where it counts. And then the people who are promoted and allowed to enter that leadership elevator, for some reason there is a skew. And the people picked are men in preference to women. And I think women need to push much harder there. Corporates need to try much harder to make sure that women get a fair chance to enter that leadership elevator. So I think that's really where the challenge is. And I think women must push themselves much harder. I mean, you know, I was talking to a woman leader today who said, you know, none of us as women really are money-minded. You know, we are not, you know, we don't look for money as the prime motivator, right? Actually, that's what all you know, corporations want. They want people with purpose. They want employees to have a purposeful mission in terms of what they're doing for the organization. But when it actually comes to the real test, it is about pushing yourself and demanding, you know, a very high monetary compensation, which men are much more adept at doing than women. And this lady was telling me, she said, you know, when the person asked me, what do you expect for your comp? And she said, I was a bit dumbstruck because I didn't even know what to ask for. And she said, some figure came in my mind, and I said it. And he said, yeah, the job's yours. And then she said, I went back and I told my husband, did I lowball myself? Because he gave me that job so easily. And she said, a few months later, I got a real surprise. She said, I suddenly got a hike in my salary because my boss told me, look, we hired a man who asked for more, and we felt it was only important that we give you more to match that. Now, how many organizations will do that? I don't think so. And that's where I think we need to understand that women need to aspire for leadership roles in a way that is fair and in a way that they understand what is their market worth.
Absolutely. In fact, it's interesting, but in one of the European countries just a couple of weeks ago, they actually had tickets for the trains at a discount, 20% discount for women for the whole day to acknowledge the fact that women were actually paid that much less. There was that much income disparity.
And yesterday there was an article saying that if you look at the leading multinational pharma companies in the world, the one that gets the lowest is Emma Walmsley of GSK. Wow. You know, there was one of the CEOs who actually took a big price hit, and he was even higher than Emma Walmsley after taking the hit on his salary. So you can see what's happening globally.
Yeah, I mean, in contrast, Kylie Jenner is now the youngest billionaire in the world. But okay, just to get a sense in the audience, how many here are doing something in the tech industry? Okay, and how many here are, let's say, entrepreneurs not necessarily in tech? Awesome. And how many here are from a corporate? Okay. All right. Okay. So, Aisha, what are corporates doing then in order to, you know, as Kiran said, solve some of these issues, bridge that disparity, create more leaders?
See, I think one of the good things that has happened over the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years is the real recognition at the most senior levels and at the board level that we need to get the best talent. And the best talent cannot just be half the population. It has to be men, it has to be women, it has to be people, who have all kinds of, different things associated with them. And so I think one issue has been, what we have found is it's very much about inclusion. Women need, and people who are minority groups need to feel included within the corporate culture. And it is up to all managers to drive that. One of the things that Anu Aga said earlier is, and all of us women who were sitting here were like looking at each other and acknowledging it, is that women suffer from two important drawbacks. One is that we carry in tremendous guilt. The two is we are not as self-confident. And the most important part to go with self-confidence is we're very self-critical. And if you have all of those things, you really need to go against your grain in order to pitch for that promotion or in order to ask for that compensation. But it is going against our grain. And that comes with training, that comes with sponsorship, And that comes with time. And I think a lot of people have achieved that, but it is sometimes not for everybody. Again, they're not going to be all women who are the same, but that, for the most part, I've seen a lot of it that way. And I think the other things organizations need to do, and which is to say, if there are big roles that come up, we need to insist that women are considered for those roles. If somebody says this big promotion is happening and the entire pool is just a male pool, we have to ask the question. We have to say, why are there not senior women being considered for these roles? So it's it's a combination of micro and macro, frankly, and it's going to take some time. And I think the good thing I'm hoping is, the new generation, the millennials, are much more impatient. And hopefully they're going to push this agenda much further than people of my generation did.
Go for it.
Abha, I think 2 years ago, we took a very brave step in the business and we said we're going to make sure every cockpit has one female pilot in it. Unfortunately, we don't own our planes. So the first flight that happened, the principal got into the aircraft, and I'm talking to you about a principal who runs a billion-dollar business, doing very well, etc. And he called me up and he's like, Kanika, why is a cabin crew flying the plane? What's going on? And I said, sir, well, that's your new co-pilot. He said, are you sure? She looks younger than you. I said, well, if I'm old enough to take care of your planes, I'm sure she's old enough to fly your plane. And he said, can we do something to change her? I said, well, you've got to wait for a couple of hours if you want me to change the crew. So I suggest you carry on. And this was about 5:15 in the morning. I was most agitated, being woken up. They landed and I called the cabin crew and I said, what happened? How bad was this flight? And she said that, ma'am, pure raste Hanuman Chalisa pad rahe the. I think it's going to be a very, very long time. We're all talking change. We're all saying, we're all talking numbers. Well, these numbers are more forced. Like, ma'am here said that you're seeing it all at entry level, management trainee programs, assistants, managerial levels. I think it's going to take a very, very long time for leadership, traditional leadership, which dominates corporate India, unfortunately, to actually accept that, women can be given a seat at the board, they can add equal value. In the last 1 year, 18 companies have approached me to sit on their board because it's mandatory to have a woman on the board, not because I can add value to the board. Sure. So I think it's going to, forcefully having women sit there is not going to work. You've got to appreciate them for the value they actually have.
How do you tackle that when you know that that's what's happening? Do you still take the opportunity?
No, so I didn't. I've written back very harshly, not very harshly, or very diplomatically rather, saying that, do you really think I'll be able to add value and speak what I think, or is it because you need a skirt to fill in the table?
I think it's also going to require a change in perception, and I'll tell you where I'm coming from, especially at sort of senior management board level. A lot of investors, private equity investors, and others who put money back businesses need a little bit of aggression. They feel that you need people, you need management that will really drive the business with a lot of aggression. And I don't mean aggression in a negative way, but there's this sense that women can't quite be as aggressive as men. Alpha male, I mean, why? So the point really is you don't really need to be aggressive in a business. You can be gentle, you can be considerate, you can be a woman, and you can be equally powerful and equally ambitious and equally pushy. So I think that's a little bit of a change in perception that's required, that success and a push for success does not necessarily mean aggression.
You've hit on everyone's favorite topic for debate, the A word.
And, adding to that, there's this very false perception that women are not big risk takers. Yes. And I think that is so flawed. Because I think every woman who actually aspires for a career or for an entrepreneurial role is taking a risk, in a big way. And I think women take much bigger risks to prove themselves than most men.
So do you feel, Kiran, let's say from when you were, first, or in the earlier days of your journey, were these issues still there? Are they different today? Are they the same issues? Or is there more just noise around them? Or have things evolved because we're seeing the growth, for example, of tech and new industries?
Well, you know, things are much better today, I must admit, but I think there are still those perceptions. And I think even in my case, I still have to keep proving to the world that, you know, that the risks I'm taking are being rewarded, you know, and people don't have to sort of always look at me as someone who doesn't understand what risk is about. I mean, I think I've somehow vindicated myself because I always believe that taking high risk really comes with low probabilities of success. And I always believed that my approach to taking high risk is to keep improving that probability of success, which is what will get me to the success factor at the end. So I think that's been my strategy, but I think it's taken me a long time for people to be convinced that that strategy actually works and that I am a big risk taker and I'm not a reckless risk taker.
So apply that to the corporate landscape. And in the sense, with entrepreneurs, I think everyone understands, you know, what it means to be a risk taker in the corporate landscape. Or how would you like to see women reach out for more? As you said earlier, a lot of them perhaps have doubts about self-worth, don't go out there and grab opportunities. What would you like to see more of?
Well, you know, what I say to, you know, people who ask me that question is, you know, we all need to just push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. That's different things for different people, but we need to constantly ask ourselves that question. Are we too comfortable in this role? You know, what else should we be asking for? You know, one of the things about women, which I think, you know, is so evident and comes out only with time, and, you know, Kiran is a great example of it. You know, in order to be really successful and build something that is sustained, you need to be able to do partnerships. You need to be able to multitask across all of the things, focus on relationships. And women are fabulous at all of those things. You know, and it is ultimately that is really going to get you that alpha growth, not by doing everything yourself. And, you know, we are really good at building partnerships and, you know, and investing in those relationships. And so I think it's important that for the more junior women, you know, a piece of advice that was given to me very early on in my career is, you know, you're going to be often in a room where the majority of the people are going to be men. Now, you can look at that two ways. You can look at that and say, oh my God, I'm the only woman in this room. Or you can say, guess who's going to be remembered after that meeting is over? Likely you, because everybody else has looked the same. So use that to your advantage. Basically, do not go to that meeting and keep your mouth shut. Make sure you speak up. Make sure you take advantage of the fact that you're the only person in that room who potentially some very senior person in that room may remember. So ask the question. And if you're not going to do that, don't go to the meeting. You know, stay away. And so I think we need to tell people, push yourself outside of your comfort zone, be more vocal, be more confident. And all of these things are viewed, frankly, by, you know, most senior people as criteria for leadership and success, and so we need to demonstrate that.
Absolutely. We have our period of exclusivity right now. Let's make full use of it. Because it's not going to last very long, I hope.
So, well, taking from where Aisha left off, just to get a round of closing comments in terms of, you know, what you feel are the key assets of a great leader, what you'd like to see more women inculcate and aim for going forward, and, you know, achieve more leadership positions. Kanika?
I think, you know, irrespective of gender, we've spoken a lot about it, but I think you know, the few qualities that really make a great leader, I mean, I'm going to repeat myself again, is, you know, transparency, honesty, doing things the right way. And, you know, I think if you're transparent and honest and you really, really believe in yourself, absolutely nothing in the world can, you know, stop you from achieving what you really want to achieve. You've just got to keep believing in yourself. Everything else is noise, men, women, etc., and just go for the goal and you'll get what you want.
What was a milestone moment for you, Kanika, or an acknowledgement that, and I can come back to you if you don't remember instantly, but where you felt that someone really appreciated how you would build your company, regardless of gender?
You know, I think there have been tons of moments like that, but one thing that really stands out to me all the time is that I started the business with about 5,600 rupees is what I invested in the business. And I needed a credit line of about, this was when we were 6 months old. I was the only one running the business. I used to answer the phone with 15 different names because I didn't want people thinking it's a one-person company, one-girl company. And someone gave me a credit line of about almost 4.5 crores just on my word that I will not let you down and I'll ensure the money comes back to you. So I did go back and ask him 2 years ago. I said, that you took quite a substantial risk. You extended credit to someone you barely knew for this kind of time. And he said, there was something in you, in your voice that told me that you're going to make it and you're going to reciprocate it in more ways than one. And you've done that without knowing. So, yeah.
Awesome. Gautam, what? Yeah. Qualities that you look for.
Sure. So leadership cuts across, independent of the qualities of a good leader, is what it is. It cuts across gender. I think companies need to increasingly invest in diversity. It's not about A or B is better. It's A plus B is better than either A or B. That's probably.
Shama?
Yeah, well, let me just talk about myself, and I wish there would be many women who recognize the reality of what I'm saying now. I think there's one muscle in my body that I respect the most, and it's my brain, and it has no gender.
Awesome.
For me, it's, I believe in sustainable businesses, which are very important for society. And I really believe that that's what drives me. My purpose in life is how do I improve societies? And I think the business should have that impact. So building sustainable businesses, very often you hear this important statement that technology is dehumanizing us. And everything is about replacing something with technology. And I think women understand how you can actually build sustainable businesses, how people matter. And in our business, patients matter. So we are very patient-centric. It's about providing affordable access to patients around the world. And that's what has been my driving sense of purpose. So building that sustainability in our business, the sensibility in our business, to me is very, very important.
Fantastic. And on that positive note, some great comments coming in from this fabulous panel today. A big round of applause, everybody, and a big thank you to all of you.
So 3 key lessons have come from this session. Women need to guilt less, they need to ask for more money, they need to negotiate better, and they certainly need to get out of their comfort zone. And thank you, distinguished panel, for busting that stereotype that women are not risk takers. There's surely a new code of leadership that every boardroom needs to own, and I think the panel has very pertinently put that across. And while boardrooms chart out their code, all leaders and those aspiring to get to the corner office must remember that the team that laughs the most and the hardest does the best when it comes to achieving targets and eventually building trillion-dollar enterprises. So here's some dose of comedy from Mumbai stand-up artist Daniel Fernandez. He has performed at multiple comedy clubs and festivals all over the world, and tonight, we have him exclusively for you. Over to you, Daniel.
Hi. Sure. Good evening, ladies, and the 10 gentlemen that I can see in the audience. It's really nice to be in a room where there are so many women, right? More women than men. Everyone's feeling safe. All right. Before I begin my performance, I just want to ask you a quick question. How many of you have watched a live stand-up performance before? Clap your hands if you have. Yes? Excellent. Okay, so I just want to make sure I set the rules very clearly. Okay, if I'm going to tell you jokes for the next 15 or 20 minutes. If you understand the jokes and like them, let me know. Yeah, but I'll tell you why, because sometimes I'll perform, right? And I can't tell if the audience is having a nice time because I'll do a joke and they'll just go, and I think they're not having a good time, but they'll meet me after the show and they'll be like, dude, you were bloody funny. And I'm like, you should have bloody laughed. All right, so I've been doing this for 8 years, so if you understand the joke, will you let me know? Yes? This is the fun part of the evening. You know that's true. I mean, the other parts are fun as well, but this is the part that's more fun, okay? So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Daniel. I'm a comedian. This wasn't the profession I wanted. I wanted to be a doctor, but my parents thought that that was too offbeat. They wanted me to do something more mainstream. So they said, become a comedian. You'll do well, Daniel. And turns out 8 years later, she was right. If you look around right now, India is full of comedians. It's not the name they go with. Some of them call themselves chowkidars. But you get what I'm saying? And it's a fun job. I get to meet a lot of people, and whenever I meet people, they often ask me questions. You know, the most common question I get is, how do you write jokes? Where does your material come from? And I'm like, material can come from anywhere, because I think anything in life can be funny. For instance, I read this in the newspaper this one time, right? According to a survey by the Bombay Times, 70% women fake orgasms to avoid hurting men's feelings. Which I found hilarious, because 100% men fake feelings. That joke was the litmus test. You did well. It's about to get intense. It's really nice to be here, but it's a very unique event, right? The ETPrime Women Leadership Awards. Clap your hands if you agree with me when I say that we need more women in leadership positions all over the world. Yeah? You know, it would be really weird if you didn't clap for that one. But I agree, we should have women in more leadership positions, right? Like America came close. In 2016, America came close to having its first female president. Came really close, and we were following that election, weren't we? It was Trump versus Hillary, Hillary versus Trump. They had the election, and Russia won. And I don't know if you felt the same way, but I was confused by how affected I was by the result. For some reason, it felt like a personal loss. And I couldn't understand why I was feeling this way, because I've never been to America. I'm not going there till the next election is finished. So why was I so affected? Like, I wasn't this affected when the BJP came to power in our own country. And when you think about it, Narendra Modi is just Donald Trump with work experience. Yeah, you can clap. The camera can't see you. Don't worry. I'll get in trouble. We need more women in leadership roles. Women get things done, yes? Take New Zealand, for example. Yeah? They recently had a horrific mass shooting, and their Prime Minister, Jacinda Ardern, within 6 days, imposed a ban on semi-automatic assault rifles. 6 days, that's all it took. That's how quickly it was. I'm telling you, the next time India elects a woman as Prime Minister, within 6 days, she will ban Indian men. Problem solved. But I love being a comedian in India. There's always so much going on here. There's always so much to observe. One of the things that I've observed a lot in this country is that people are always angry. Have you noticed this? People are always angry. We get angry all the time. And especially with celebrities. We love getting angry with celebrities, don't we? A couple of years ago, we were really angry with Fawad Khan. Why? Because he was in that movie, Ae Dil Hai Mushkil. Have you seen that movie? Yes? You remember that movie? Yeah? I went to watch that movie with a friend of mine, right? We were watching the movie, and every time Fawad appeared on screen, my friend he kept yelling out, "Hey, go back to Pakistan! Go back to Pakistan!" I'm like, bro, ye live telecast nahi hai. Like, even if this was there in London, we're in Goregaon, East. What is wrong with you? Stop disturbing people. I'm not trying to disturb people. I'm just trying to prove to everyone over here that I'm patriotic. Well, if you want to prove that you're patriotic, why don't you do something else, like join the army instead? I would join the army, लेकिन border पे Facebook और Twitter नहीं है. All right, fine. Just stop disturbing people, right? Couple of minutes later, again, go back to Pakistan. Go back to, that's Ranbir. But I can't tell the difference here. Ranbir, Fawad, they both look the same. It's almost like we used to be part of the same country. Can't tell. You can clap. No one can see you. And just then, Aishwarya Rai walks into the screen, right? She's on the movie. And you guys remember Aishwarya from the movie? That's the most beautiful I've ever seen her. I was just melting in my seat, you know, every time I saw her. And then my friend just leaned over to me and he said, do you know Abhishek Bachchan gets to wake up next to her every morning? Hey, Abhishek, go back to Pakistan. It's a fun time. It's a fun time in India right now. We're preparing for an election, yes? We're preparing to vote. And I think, you know, in this preparation, I think it's really important to take lessons from other countries that have been through this process. You know, you can learn from them. Like 2016, we had to deal with a major political crisis, didn't we? Remember this one? Brexit? Yeah? You remember Brexit, right? We all know what happened. The UK, they had a referendum in the UK and the majority voted to leave the EU. Remember this one? Which was fine. Until the next day when Google reported that the top 2 searches in the UK a day after they voted to leave were, what is the EU? What will happen if we leave the EU? And that just blew my mind. Because this had to be the single most important decision these guys would have made in their lifetime, right? The least they could have done was found out what they were voting for. Like before the referendum, they could have come to India and just randomly approach somebody and just ask them, you know, bro, what do you think about Brexit? And he would be like, take bye. I know that being a part of the European Union is very challenging, but you can't deny the fact that there are many benefits, like economic stability, free trade, free residence and movement within 29 countries, better security. So to leave the EU, my friend, would be really stupid. Now, sir, do you want petrol or diesel? Indians love politics, don't they? We love politics over here, yes? How many of you love politics? Give me a cheer. How many of you are left-wing? How many of you are right-wing? How many of you have no idea what left-wing and right-wing are? Incredible. But coming back to Brexit, if you were following the news around that time, even after the results were declared, there was a lot of unrest in the UK, right? There were a lot of hate crimes, there was racial profiling, minorities were feeling oppressed. There was intolerance in the UK. That's right. It's a very familiar word, intolerance. Yeah, yeah. And that's when I realized India is better than the UK. Clap your hands if you agree. Yeah. We are better than the UK. I'll tell you why. Because at least when we vote, we know we are voting intolerance into power. Now, if you enjoyed that joke, you are left-wing. Yes. 2016 was a very interesting year if you're a fan of politics. Okay, there were a lot of interesting things happened. We had a very defining moment in our own political history. November 8th, 2016. All right, you guys remember that? Yeah, whenever I drop this date, everyone, chutta nahi hai mere paas, nahi hai. You guys know what I'm talking about? November 8, 2016, demonetization. I think demonetization was the most defining moment in our modern political history. Okay, here's how defining it was, okay? You remember exactly where you were on November 8, 2016. You know exactly where you were. You remember what you were wearing. You remember how salty your tears tasted. What a day. I was in Goa with my family. My parents live over there. I was in Goa and I was chilling with my parents. We're watching TV. We're just switching channels. And suddenly at 8 o'clock we see, Mitron. And that's where everyone's lives changed forever. And it's been, what, almost 3 years now. It's going to be 3 years this year, and we still cannot have a conclusive discussion about this subject. There are a lot of people who think that demonetization was good for the economy. Some people think demonetization was bad for the economy. And then some people say, shut up, bhai is amazing. Well, I'll tell you what I found interesting, right, about demonetization. I felt really bad for the 1,000 rupee note. Do you guys remember the 1,000 rupee note? If you're Indian and you're middle class, you loved the 1,000 rupee note. You respected the 1,000 rupee note. You loved and respected the 1,000 rupee note so much, it had its own special compartment in your wallet. Yes or no? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah? You didn't care about any of the other notes. You didn't care about the 10, 50, 20 or hundreds. Like, you were like, तुम लोग ना सब साथ में ना आगे बैठेगी, हाँ? भाई पीछे बैठेगा. And the 1,000 rupee note was always chilling at the back like a boss. Always guarded by two 500 rupee notes. And that was every Indian wallet on November 8, 2016. Yes or no? But then what happened? Mitron. And just like that, everything changed. And if you recollect, the 1,000 rupee note was the most masculine currency note we've ever had. Do you remember this? It was broad, it was sturdy, it was the most masculine currency note we've ever had. And it got replaced by the most feminine currency note we've ever had. A feminine currency note in a country where people don't know how to treat women. Brilliant! And even after demonetization happened, it wasn't enough that they did it. They had to reinforce it. They had to reinforce this decision to propaganda. Right? There was a lot of propaganda. You read the news every day in the paper. There was always a photo of people standing in the line outside ATM machines. Remember that? And then they had to have opinion pieces. I read one article that made me laugh out really loud. Okay, it was like Kareena Kapoor's opinion on demonetization. Yeah, let me repeat this again. Kareena Kapoor's opinion on demonetization. Because if you want to understand the pulse of the common man and the hardship that he had to endure because of this sudden decision, who better than Kareena Kapoor? You know, if you want to understand the anger and the frustration that comes from not being able to access your own money from your own account, who better than Bebo? And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against Kareena. She's a friend of mine. Yeah. she is. I just feel that if you're doing propaganda, at least do it correctly, right? Like, you can't ask rich people how they were affected by demonetization, right? Like asking a rich person how they were affected by demonetization is like asking somebody at a buffet how they were affected by a famine. So like, yeah, it's very bad. There's no food to eat. People are dying. Yeah, very sad, very sad. क्या है ये chicken है हम veg है लेकिन खा लेंगे. Can't do that. Got to vote wisely. Let's move into a different direction now. I want to talk about myself, a little bit about myself. I'm 35 years old. Anybody else who's 35 years old? I'm the youngest person in this room? Oh. Wow, that's nice. Thanks, guys. Very rare that I feel like this. I'm 35, and I'm at the stage of my life where I thought I'd be doing certain things. How many of you feel that you had planned your life in a certain way, but it didn't exactly turn out the way you planned it? Round of applause if you did, yeah? Yeah, you know what I mean, right? Like I thought that by the age of 35 I'd be doing certain things, and one of the things I thought that I'd be doing is being a parent. I thought I'd be a parent by now. But 3 years ago, I found out that before you become a parent to your future kids, you have to become a parent to your parents. Did you guys know this? Yeah? I didn't know. 3 years ago, I found out 3 years ago, I was on a holiday with my family in Singapore, and we were walking down Orchard Street, right? And I was leading the way because I knew where we had to go, and my parents were following behind. And at some point, I turned around to see where my mom and dad were, and they were lagging behind. And they were like, son, wait, don't walk so fast. And that's when it hit me. I was like, shit, my parents have become old. They've aged. And mortality has a strange way of reminding you it exists. You know? Because as a child, you always have this image of your parents, right? They're very young, they're very strong, nothing can ever happen to them. But then as you grow up, that image starts to fade. And it took me back in time to when I was a child, and we would go out on a holiday, and my parents, my dad was the one who was leading the way because he knew where everything was, and I was the one lagging behind going, Dad, wait, I'm coming, wait. And my dad would very lovingly look at my mom and go, what the hell is wrong with this kid? How difficult is it to put one foot in front of the other? Quickly. Sell him. And years later, the tables have turned. I've grown up and I'm taking care of them. And I'm taking them out and I'm asking them what they want to eat and I'm paying for stuff. And it took me a while to get used to this, but then I realized that out of all the things that you could do after you grow up, one of the best things you can do with your life is take care of your parents. Right? And if you're not doing it, you must do it. You must take care of your parents. Not because it's the right thing to do, but because when you become a parent to your parents, your life will be full of comedy. Full of comedy. I'll give you an example from my life, okay? Remember when we were kids and we wanted something, we just asked for it? We didn't care about what it cost or where it came from. And we wanted something, we just asked for it. When you become a parent to your parents, they will do the same thing to you. Except when they ask for stuff, they will factor in inflation. So anything that you ever did to trouble them will come back to bite you in the bum. Like when I was a child, I would ask for very frivolous things. I would be like, Mom, give me money for chocolate, or give me money for Pepsi. And this wasn't Pepsi Cola. This was that frozen popsicle that we got in those plastic tubes that we bit into and just went, You guys remember this? Yeah, that's what we did in the 90s. Just went, The term youth of a nation in the 90s meant a very different thing. It was just all of us across the country going, Like, yeah, that's all we did. Like, there are people in the West today who are wondering why Indians are such good kissers. They have no idea we've been practicing since childhood. They think it's the Kama Sutra. No, it's Pepsi. That's all we did, remember? And there'd always be this one annoying friend who'd be like, Ye gutter ka pani hai. Do you guys realize gutter ka pani hai is the first fake news in India? Think about this, right? There was no WhatsApp back then. We've never met before today. And all of us probably grew up in different parts of the country, yet collectively we've all had the exact same experience. Because somewhere out there was a parent, probably in Gujarat, who didn't want his child to have Pepsi. So he just went, Ye gutter ka pani hai. And all the other parents over and they also went, gutter ka pani hai, gutter ka pani hai, gutter ka pani. Just spread. And if you think about it, they weren't too far off because in 2019, the color of gutter ka pani is orange. Yeah, you are correct. Whatever you're thinking, that is what the punchline is. So I would ask for stuff like this, I would ask for stuff like this. But my mom took it to a whole new level. She called me up recently and she was like, Dan, I want a fully automatic washing machine. I was like, but we have a fully functional semi-automatic washing machine. What's wrong with that? She's like, no, Dan, thing is, all my neighbors have a fully automatic washing machine. So I just went, if your neighbors jump inside a well, oh my God, I have become you. So I just got her an automatic washing machine. A few days after that, my dad called me. I was like, hi, I want an HD TV. No, hello, how are you? Where are you? I want an HD TV. And I'm just happy that I'm fortunate enough to be one of those parents who does not have to make up a story because they can't give their child something. Like growing up, we've all been there, right? Wanted something, we couldn't get it. Like I'm really happy when my dad asked me for an HD TV. I didn't have to go, HD TV? Why do you need an HD TV? When I was a child, I didn't have HD TV. I just used my imagination. Just got him an HD TV. Our parents are just like kids. They're just like kids. Like these days, the thing that they do the most is they argue. They will argue. Not because there's something wrong or there's something upsetting them, but just because they're bored. Have you noticed this with your parents? Like they're just arguing. There's no reason to be upset, but they're just arguing. And this one time they were arguing in front of me when I was in Goa, and I was trying to get some work done. It was really annoying me, so I had to shut them up. So I flew into parent mode, and I was like, Mom and Dad, stop this argument. It is pointless. Stop this. Now, Dad, go to your room. Mom, go to the same room. Always wanted to say that, except my dad turns around and goes, hey, this is still our house. You go to your room. And if you don't like it, go to Pakistan. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. You guys have been fantastic. My name is Daniel Fernandez. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Good night.
Thank you, Daniel, and thank God that you didn't become a doctor, else who would have given us all these innovative jokes from Brexit to Bebo and Chaukidar to currency. So anyway, staying on with innovation, that's our keyword for the evening. In fact, our next panel will look at ways to develop inclusive frameworks to drive innovation as automation and artificial intelligence threaten disruption. And to put things in perspective, we have the following members for this panel. Ms. Debaroti Sen, Managing Director, 3M India. Ms. Geeta Manjunath, Co-founder and Chief Executive Officer, Niramai. Ms. Meena Ganesh, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director, Portia Medical. Ms. Rekha Menon, Chairman and Senior Managing Director, Accenture India. And Ms. Abha Bakaya, Senior Anchor of ET Now, will be moderating this session. Welcome back, Abha. It's over to you.
All right, good evening again. And it really doesn't get more power-packed than this. We have some of the most powerful women in Indian business with us here tonight. And who better to really talk about the way forward and creating more inclusive workplace, culture, India, than, of course, the voices we have with us here tonight. So thank you so much. So, the whole idea was to talk about really what inclusion is all about, how we can really address every single area, not just gender, but also, whether it's caste, whether it's, whether it's minorities of other kinds, but across the board, really, and how this can also help in driving innovation. So let me just initially get all of your first thoughts on this. Debarati, let me start with you. How you feel we could perhaps address a broader audience, and how you feel this would help.
I'll have to use your mic. Thank you for the question. Been blessed to work in a company that's known for driving innovation through inclusion. 50 years ago, our then chairman and head CEO, McKnight, spoke about the fact that men and women, so imagine 50 years ago saying men and women, who want to innovate, who want to do things their own way, they have to be given the freedom. They have to be allowed to prosper the way they want to, right? So that's the core, the fundamental belief that we have in our company. And a long time ago, even in India, 30 years ago, we've had these conversations where we said, we need to make sure that we are mimicking, mirroring what our customers look like, what our customers speak in, the language they speak in, where they're from. And gender is obviously the most ubiquitous basis that we should have for even claiming any sort of inclusion credential, so to say. If we can't get gender right, how do we stand in front of everybody and say we're getting LGBTQ right? There's just no way you can prove that. So from where we sit, innovation is so dynamic and so necessary for a society. It needs to be reflected in the composition within the company that's trying to get those innovation credentials.
Hi, wonderful to be here and also next to some of the people I admire most. Yeah, I'm Geeta, and to me, when you talk about inclusion in innovation, I want to focus and sort of think about technical innovation and what does diversity mean to technical innovation? How do we actually have more women get into the technical innovation area, demonstrate their innovation capabilities and so on and so forth? earlier panel was talking about how such a digital platform or a technical platform is so key to make big businesses happen. So, you know, it's a ladder towards making something big, building something big, even as an entrepreneur. So personally for me, I've been a sort of, you know, innovator, scientist throughout my life in some sense. Again, like some of the comments made in the previous panels, I've been mostly a single lady throughout the class, or, you know, on the panel, in a room, or everywhere, right? You know, so for example, when I did my master's in Indian Institute of Science, till then I was not even talking to any boy because, you know, I was so shy, you know, even, you know, I was in the bachelor's and so on. But when I was pushed into this IISc where I was the only girl, I had to, you know, remove the shyness around and then start reaching out. And so that's how you know, earlier times used to be, right? You know, when you talk about education and so on. But furthermore, when I joined as a research scientist in some of the supercomputers, you know, research center in India and so on, there again, very few ladies were there. And some of the females were mostly brought in to do some kind of software development part, but the actual research roles, really, there were hardly any women, right? So that's what happened. And then again, when you go to a PhD level, again, you find very few women. So I think for me, when you talk about driving inclusion in innovation, I think we need more people in doing research. It could be STEM or, like, you know, general technical thing as well. So there, again, one of the points that was made in the earlier panel is to be bold enough to talk about your ideas, right? I think we need to encourage our daughters, sisters, you know, granddaughters after some time, I guess, all of them to, you know, when they come up with an idea, sort of make sure we can build on that. So they get confidence that they can speak out their ideas, right? At home, first of all. Next, when as a lady, we go into a room full of men and we are proposing a new idea, it's very hard because we get a lot of pushback. And personally, I can talk about many of the cases where if there is an idea that's proposed, you need to prove the idea. And as women, we go out and double prove the idea. Like, you know, if a simple POC was sufficient to prove that it works, you just go all out and show the whole thing works and people will pay everything, only then we feel it's successful. So I think this double proving and being able to express the idea without worrying about what others will say and so on and so forth, I think encouraging such a mindset is what I feel is the main need of the day from a driving innovation perspective.
Okay, great to get that perspective. Meena, let me get your thoughts as well.
So when we, let me talk about entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship is about showcasing innovation and actually taking the innovation to a logical conclusion. And if you see the amount of, or the number of women entrepreneurs, they are very, very few. And I think that starts from the kind of social conditioning that women go through. I mean, today it's great to have a career, and that's something which is approved of, but to take a risky role of being an entrepreneur is still something which is not the most approved or not the most appropriate path for women. Because, why? Because women have to settle down. So the most unsettling thing that you can do is to be an entrepreneur. So we need to remove, firstly, that mindset from the society and allow women to feel that if they have an idea and if they think they are the best person to build out that idea, it doesn't matter what stage of their life or career or motherhood or whatever, all that is happening alongside that, why can't they continue to develop that? So that is one thing which both from the society and from the investor and the ecosystem of entrepreneurs need to see this as a very, very viable and legitimate route for women and support that. The second aspect of innovation and inclusion is around startups from small cities. I think we really need to encourage a lot more of men and women, all from the smaller cities, to get access to ideas, ability to grow those ideas, capital, mentoring, whatever it takes, so that they can take their ideas to fruition. So I would look at diversity and inclusion in the entrepreneurial space from both these perspectives.
Just share with us, Meena, maybe a challenge and a learning from your experience that you think would perhaps help some others.
You see, I'm a very poor role model because by the time I started to become an entrepreneur, I was already halfway through in my career. I had about 15 years of career behind me. So the kind of questions that young women entrepreneurs are asked was not something that was posed to me. But when I look around, I do see a lot of young women who are wanting to become entrepreneurs are looked at with a little bit of suspicion, with a little bit of worry. Are they serious about this? Will they really take it through to the conclusion? Will they stick around through whatever life changes that they happen and not drop the startup? Now, the same thing can happen with men also. But this extra focus of suspicion, if I may call it, is definitely there when it comes to women entrepreneurs.
Okay, so yes, please.
I was just listening into everybody and saying, if we look at, I mean, I was just looking at it from a business perspective, saying, if we look at the last few years, the number of Fortune 500 companies that have disappeared off the planet is huge, and it's accelerating, right? And you know, we're seeing more and more of that. And the only way to survive is to innovate. And in order to innovate, you're going to have an inclusive workforce. So for me, it's not the right thing to do or the good thing to do. It's just the business thing to do. And that would be the reason to make inclusion part of your strategy.
Okay. Are there deliberate things that institutions are doing, Rekha, to kind of make sure that diversity becomes more of a push rather than a pull?
Yeah, so I mean, I can speak for Accenture. Yeah. So we took a stand a couple of years ago where we said we'll be 50-50 by 2025, which is a very public statement globally. Sure. And then we'll measure it, and we'll be the most inclusive organization on the planet, and we'll measure it. So one, there's a public commitment, it's measured, and it's from the top. The second thing is really then you have to have enabling policies and practices, right, which is part of the institutional building. And the third really is you have to have a culture of equality, right? And the culture doesn't have to, and when I say equality, it's not about gender alone. Sure. It is about being inclusive of all castes, races, sexual orientation, abilities, and creating that culture so that people can really innovate and speak their mind and feel comfortable. So those would be.
Devrati, I've heard you agreeing to a lot of these points. I just want to bring you back in here. And yeah.
So maybe a couple comments from my side. It was very interesting for me. So I came back to India after a 14-year sojourn in the US working at the corporate headquarters. And I still remember I had probably forgotten a little bit how hard it was in India for our young women to grow in the organizations. I was one. I worked in India for 10 years. But it was very interesting for me to actually realize that we've lost over 1,000 basis points of female participation. When you don't have participation, you can't have progress. So when I came back, that was probably my biggest challenge and my biggest necessity. I still remember in my earliest days, one of my operating committee members, as we were talking about potential of one of our senior female leaders, he specifically said, she's really good. She's got a man's head on her shoulders. Quote unquote, I'm not making this up. And I literally paused. And I looked at him and I said, can you just repeat what you said? I don't think he'd realized he'd said anything that wasn't acceptable. And by the time I said that, the other folks had started leaning away from him, that subtle body language saying, hey, we don't agree with him. But the second time he said it, he said, that's not what I meant. And we took a pause, we chuckled, but we said, then please say what you mean. Is anything wrong with my head? Of course, at that time, I was the only woman in my own operating committee, and today we have 4 of us, and it definitely feels different, and we're definitely looked up at and looked upon. It's hard for a young person to come into an organization, look up, whether that young person is a male or a female, look up and see no one like them. Whatever that like them is. Our company started in Bangalore, and we realized in the early days that we had a vast majority of our people who were South Indian. Nothing wrong with that. But if I'm a North Indian, and I'm from Delhi, and I'm trying to join, and I feel 3M's the place for me to grow, I look up and I see no one like me. It's the like me that's really important to build participation. And then you talk about progress. If you don't have participation, progress is far away, right?
Okay. And really interesting points that are coming out of this. You know, Geeta, just to come back to you, and you spoke about your own personal journey, but today when you're looking at an organizational culture, again, what are the things that you see happening?
Sure. Surprisingly, I mean, I think one thing that she said is absolutely correct. That is, if the leadership is women, you will have more women, for example, one aspect of what she said. So it happens here as well. Both of the co-founders, are women here in our Niramai, where we have developed a new way of doing breast cancer detection using AI. And it turns out that almost 70% of our team is women today. And in fact, we were trying to sort of hire another leader, so that we have a broader leadership team. And we're thinking, if everything is equal, I think we should get a male, because we want to have a diversity in our leadership team. So I mean, like, we were laughing and saying, like, first time. Yeah, because of course in my previous leadership roles in multinational companies, we were talking about 25% being great and so on. I mean, it was very interesting. Just last week we were saying, maybe if all equal, at least we should have 3 men in the top 5 list that we put in.
Okay. So are you seeing any roadblocks to this process? You know, when you're trying to institutionalize it, when you're trying to create that opportunity, when you're trying to give the platform to the next generation of innovators?
Well, let me talk about what I think enablers, what the kind of enablers that are required. I think first and foremost, the need for role models, and role models at different levels. It's not enough to have very, very visible and extremely successful high-level role models. You need role models at every level. You need to see a 25-year-old who started a company and who's raised some money, who's failed, gone back, tried something again. You need that role model. You need a role model of a person who's built a company, who's grown it, who's sold it, who's moved on to do something else. You need different kinds of role models, because then you say, okay, from this step, I think I can get to that step. It's not enough to just have a star to aspire for. So creating a whole set of role models and exposing other women to those role models is a very important thing. The second thing is to have adequate mentoring for women entrepreneurs, because one of the things I have noticed, a lot of women entrepreneurs are a little unsure about their ability to do a number of things. For instance, they believe, because of whatever conditioning has happened, that they're not good at selling, they're not good at raising money or managing investors. For this, they need to get a suitable male to work with them, because men can be more aggressive, they can raise money better, they can manage investors better, they can sell better. So you need to help them remove some of those, uncondition them and say, oh, that's not true, you're as good in your role, in your company, you're the one who's got the highest degree of passion, you're the best salesperson. So you need to help them overcome some of these conditioning so that they're able to take their companies forward.
Rekha, how do you link diversity to business value? You know, you spoke earlier about, measuring the percentages, making sure there was some accountability and that was able to be tracked. How do businesses today negotiate that fine balance?
So from a business perspective, again, you can do both input and output measures. So the input measures, if you were doing diversity, would obviously be, are you meeting the numbers, whether it's hiring or is it retention, or is it promotion? I mean, we do promotion pipeline reviews to see, are we leaving adequate women out, right? So we look at promotion and say, are you promoting enough women? If they're not, why aren't you, right? So those are all the input measures. But then the output measures would also be, I would say 2 or 3 of them. One, are you meeting the pyramid numbers? That's a very easy measure. But second would also be, is there business value being added? I mean, we've seen over and over, there's enough studies shown that if there are women at the top and on the board, then those organizations perform better in the same industry, financially better than other organizations which do not have a diverse board or leadership. So that's one more measure that you could look at, which is financial. But the other measure would be innovation. And how are you doing on the innovation quotient?
So we've spoken so much about innovation today that I just, I really just want to get some more thoughts on specifically what you would define as, as good innovation. The reason I'm asking is because I also get a complaint from a lot of entrepreneurs. I met an entrepreneur earlier today who said, I'm looking for venture money, but they're not giving me money because I'm actually doing something new. So, yeah, it's kind of ironic. He said they're looking for a lot of like proven models and they're not willing to take that bet. In the corporate scenario, what would you look for? What's the kind of energy you want to see? And how do you feel having a more inclusive environment, brings out that flavor? If you can share some examples with us.
So maybe since we're going this way, I'll start again. So in our company, we believe we are in the business of delivering value to our customers, and we're known for innovation. But that happens through lots of very structured processes. So among the most important process that we have in our company is what we call a 15% rule, which means none of us can, down our organization, tell anybody not to follow a path of passion. Each one of us as employees, no matter what level we are in, can spend 15% of our notional time. Typically, it's 15 of 150%. But 15% of our time pursuing a passion that we have, taking it to a certain level, and thereafter, of course, you have discussions, very much like an internal VC panel, you could think of it that way, where we are pitching our ideas, and then those would go forth for the next round of investment and such. In our world, it doesn't matter. I was just about to tell Meena that, yes, I understand all those biases that people have. Some of our best key account managers are women. And they're very subtle, they're very strong, and they're just incredibly successful. So we haven't seen much of a difference in the ability to pitch, because there is no difference, and I feel very strongly, in women or men's ability to have passion. We are all equally passionate. Of course, we are sitting in India, which is an extremely passionate country, but whether I'm talking about passion in the US or I'm talking about passion in Brazil or in China, men and women are equally passionate. So if you first enable that passion platform, it's very easy to sell from there. It's very easy to ask for money from there. It's very easy to unlock the potential of the company. So we try to make sure that we're fueling the passion, and then let us have organizational processes that allow the best to rise to the surface.
Lovely.
We actually, if I could add to it from a corporate perspective, actually do two things. Just to add, one, we actually started measuring ourselves on how much business in the new were we getting. And if each of us are measured on how much businesses are you getting in the new, then you are going to drive innovation. You're going to, absolutely, that's the way to survive, right? And that's going to then percolate down. And we actually started reporting it externally, and we call that. And right now, we said new, for us was digital at that time, and we defined what digital meant. And we just did our second quarter earnings, and we're doing about 60% of our business in the new. The second thing we started doing was bubbling up a lot more ideas, innovation ideas from our people. And the earlier panel had talked about listen to millennials and the younger ones, and the best ideas are coming from there. And then encouraging that without the hierarchy to go experiment and fail fast.
That sheds a lot of light into how things are changing right now, and so rapidly and so significantly.
Yeah, just to add, there are a couple of things that we do. We are a small startup, just 25 people by the 30 now, right? So still, we do have two teams. One is more, at least 2 years down the line, focusing on what is the product that we need to release. And then another team which is just looking at now. And then, of course, there's a midterm, right? So having this differentiation of where are you going with this technology is one thing that we are trying to do. Of course, in some cases, people, spend time in both teams and so on and so forth, depending upon their aptitude. There's also another thing that we do is to set goals on the number of patents that we want to do every year, every quarter, and so on. Not to just go behind the patents, but to ensure that the new ideas that we are coming up with are captured and documented and proven that it is globally unique. For example, for a young startup as 2 years plus, we already own 9 US granted patents and 1 Canadian patent, right? So I don't think, yeah, thank you. So, innovation is the core of Niramai, and we want to continue to do that. And so that's what we do. And every discussion is almost like a brainstorming session, every new thing that we want to do. So we start with, as she was mentioning, start with ideas that everyone has, put it down, and nobody should shoot ideas, right? only building is allowed, right? It's a sort of very structured way of brainstorming that we do so that we only make better, right? It's constructive feedback, fine, but you only have to build. You should never say that idea won't work. So that's the policy. We go ahead, and of course, towards the end, we prune. But when you are in that mode, I mean, it's so wonderful to see everyone being so creative. It has to be a big room, by the way, yeah.
It's great to hear that. Great to hear that. Meena?
There are two things that I'd like to share. One is in one of the companies which I also run on an executive basis, which is Portia. The way we drive innovation is by constantly listening to the customer, because this is a whole new industry that we've created, and we don't know what is right. We don't know what we need to deliver. We are constantly going back, talking to our customers and patients and understanding what is not working, and then give those problems back to the teams. We have a bunch of very smart ladies, by the way, lots and lots of smart women who take these projects. I mean, the men are also smart, but I'm just saying, we have lots of women. And like Dr. Geeta was saying, at times some of my team members have said, we've got too many women. Can we get some more men? So we have a similar problem going on in our company. And so coming back to the innovation piece, the customer problems are what constantly drive us to go back and see what is working and what is not. Second, because we are still a startup, and we're constantly trying to see how we can grow faster, how we can become profitable faster. Those economic pressures constantly make us go back and look at, this is not good enough. How do we change it? How can we improve the pace of growth? How can we move? This will go, bring in news. This constant churn and dynamism that is there just because of the fact that we are still in the early days of startup. So that's one path that I want to talk about. The other is, as a family, we have a platform which we call Growth Story, under which there are a lot of companies, a lot of ideas, and then a lot of companies that have come up over the years. And at this point, we have 14 different companies. Many of them are big names which people will recognize, but there are also a lot of small ones which are all about innovation. There are these, there are three of us. We would someday sit and say, looks like there's something happening in this space. Let's put a small team of people. Let's go investigate. Let's put a little money behind. Create an MVP. Take it to market. Works, doesn't work. Scrap it. Let's move on to that idea. So we have this constant lab of ideas which are churning continuously, and something comes out of that, hopefully.
Talking about the need for role models, don't we have a fabulous set of role models right here today? So, ladies, you've all reached milestones. You've set up amazing businesses. Are leading amazing businesses. What has held you in good stead? If you could just share something from your journey that you could leave us with here today. I mean, I can still see the passion in all of you. But from your journey, if there's any highlights, milestones, anything that you'd like to share with us.
That's a very broad question, but maybe just one that I strongly believe in. So I do believe that success is not owned. I sincerely believe that it's rented and the rent falls due every morning. So keeping myself young in my head, keeping myself hungry, not taking myself too seriously. I'm kind of naturally a very serious person, but believe me, the thing that I'm most proud of is how much humor I have learned over the years as life knocks you and you fall down and you pick yourself up, to actually have fun and not take yourself too seriously, but work harder than you did the prior day. So that's my very simple motto I share with my folks in the company, youngsters often. So that's all.
Yeah, so one is, of course, passion, right? Women, I think, love really, really passionately. I guess even men do. But men do too, right? Yeah, maybe men do to their wives, right? So we actually love everything. Essentially, I think the passion, right? Whatever work you choose, and choose something that you really love to do, and then really go all out to make that successful. I think that passion to drive and make whatever you are trying to do successful is one main thing. Personally, for me, there are two mantras, I guess, if I have to summarize. One is learn something new every day, and whatever happens is for good. So whenever you're in the turf, right, okay, there's some reason, somebody out there or somebody is trying to sort of make something better for you. And so it helps you to sort of get up and then run again. And the second is like, what have I learned today? So just sort of going through that, I think it's been wonderful.
Thank you.
couple of things for me. One is the need to be able to look at the big picture, but then switch to the minutiae without losing either of those. That is something which, especially as an entrepreneur in early stages of the company, you need to be able to do that all the time. It's not enough to have the big idea because it's all about execution. It's only about execution at the end of the day. So if you are not able to balance the two, it becomes very challenging. The second thing for me is about humility, is about never ever thinking that you have all the answers or you know it all or you're big or whatever. I mean, all of those are hallmarks of failure. I mean, the moment you get there, then you're done for.
Very important.
So I would say one would be strong self-belief. And I have to thank my parents for that. Because through the ups and downs, the ability to believe in yourself and the ability to change, because we're going to have to change through life. Life will happen, and it did happen. So one had to keep learning and changing. Second, recognizing that we didn't get here by ourselves, that there were a lot of people who helped us along the way, and therefore, how do we give back? And third is leaving a legacy larger than yourself. And I think that's what keeps me going.
Ladies, thank you so much. It's been a learning for me also tonight and a fabulous opportunity to hear all of you speak. Wishing you all the best. A big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, distinguished panel, for spelling it out just so simple. Some of the things that women leaders, women managers need to keep in mind: keeping yourself simple, staying young in the mind, staying passionate, and looking at the big picture without losing focus, with a dash of humility and self-belief. How wonderful is that? And now, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to this evening's highlight, the inaugural ETPrime Women Leadership Awards. And for those of you who've joined us late here, let me just take a moment to tell you that these awards recognize the spirit of endeavor, enterprise, and excellence in accomplished women who've been breaking barriers and busting stereotypes of all kinds. And we have so many of them here in the audience today. Can we please have a round of applause for the lovely audience here? And without any further delay, let us begin the felicitation ceremony. We will begin with a special category, that of emerging women leaders under the age of 35. The winners in this category were chosen by the ETPrime editorial team and our knowledge partner, Accord India. And I'd like to invite Ms. Meena Ganesh, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director, Portea Medical, to kindly come on stage to give away the first set of awards. And the nominations for the first set of awards in the Emerging Innovator of the Year are Gauri Angrish, co-founder CareDose, Nidhi Pant, co-founder S4S, Science for Society, Pratyusha Pareddi, founder and CEO, NemoCare. And the final nominee in this category is Richa Singh, co-founder, COO, and CEO of Your Dost. And the Emerging Innovator of the Year goes to Nidhi Pant. Entrepreneur, Ms. Pant heads the FMCG arm of Science for Society, India's fastest growing food technology company. Science for Society launched Desi Videsi to provide a financially viable business model to farmers via sustainable and innovative technology. It works with 1,200 farmers and guides them on how to cultivate crops using solar-powered tech. She also mentors various startups in the US. Nidhi, could I just have you back on stage? Ma'am, she also mentors various startups in the US, Kenya, Thailand, and Nepal. A big round of applause to Ms. Pant, our first awardee for the evening. Congratulations, Nidhi, and tell us one thing that you would like to see more in the startup space, quickly.
I want a lot of people, those who work behind the scene, just get their job done. I just hope that a lot of people who get the job done without thinking that all the good ideas came from them, just do it selflessly and unconditionally, just get the due. And I'm just representing some brilliant women, farmers who, without knowing what is the end result, just trust women like us and give us this platform. So I hope many more people are acknowledged. And thank you, ET, for this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nidhi. The next category that we have is the Emerging Leader of the Award, I beg your pardon, Emerging Leader of the Year. And the nominees in this category are Divya Gokulnath, co-founder Byju's; Divya Kohli, HRBP, Nestle Nutrition and Nestle Health Science for South Asia region; Mehak Jani, Account Director for DDB Mudra; and the final nominee in this category is Priyanka Shah, National Head Isobar Mobile for Isobar India. And the winner of the Emerging Leader of the Year is Ms. Divya Kohli of Nestle India. Ms. Kohli has helped people strategies and effectively groomed talent to support business objectives for Nestle across South Asia. From performance management to talent acquisition, she has stood out as an HR leader in a firm with a storied heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Ms. Divya Kohli. Congratulations, Divya. One quick question for you. How do you see companies being able to address the gender skew?
I think companies all over, and not only companies, every single household is trying to address this skew. And honestly, it lies from which lens you want to see it. From where I stand, I do not see a skew. It's all in our minds, and it's all up to us, how we want to address it.
Thank you, Divya. That's encouraging, no skew at all. Our last award in this category is the Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year, and the nominees for this category include Divya Jain, the founder of Safe Educate; Neha Juneja, co-founder and CEO of Greenway Grameen Infrastructure; Prakalpa Sankar, co-founder of Social Corps; Sneha Chaudhary, co-founder of Zolo Stays; and our final nominee in this category is Yamini Bhatt, co-founder of Vimo. And the winner of the Emerging Entrepreneur of the Year is Ms. Prakalpa Sankar, the co-founder of Social Corps. Ms. Sankar has built a platform that enables data-driven decisions by leaders and organizations around the globe. The data intelligence company has effectively sourced, cleaned, and visualized data for solving real-life problems. It works with nearly 200 partners and has a footprint in 50 countries. A huge round of applause for this young star. Unfortunately, she's away in the US and could not join us for the ceremony, but nevertheless, a huge round of applause for her. And moving on to our next award, which is the Accenture Vahini Innovator Award. This award recognizes a woman who has challenged invisible orthodoxies and disrupted conventional norms to carve a niche for herself. The award feats the spirit of an enterprising woman who has leveraged established competencies and assets to help others grow. And the nominees are Aditi Awasthi, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Imbibe. Ashwini Asokan, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Mad Street Den. The third nominee in this category is Hemlatha Annamalai, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Ampere Vehicles. Shelja Mittal, Co-Founder, Koala Cabs, is our... Oh, I'm sorry, I think there is some problem. Okay, I got the wrong thing. So anyway, we have Geeta Manjunath, co-founder and CEO, Niramai Health Analytics. We have Joe Agarwal, founder and CEO of Visa, and Sudha Bhamitpati, co-founder of Voroxco. And the Accenture Vahini Award goes to Ms. Aditi Awasthi, who has built an AI-powered EdTech platform that has touched the lives of some 18 million students. A pioneering initiative, Imbibe helps students devise a proper strategy to crack some of India's toughest entrance exams. Congratulations, Aditi. I'm sure a lot of parents must be thanking you today. Tell us, how did the idea come to you?
Can I say something else?
Please, go ahead. The stage is yours.
So we just filed 4 patents yesterday for now what is the world's most transformative AI platform for education. We've had phenomenal growth in business metrics and all of the revenue delivered through artificial intelligence. And I'm seeing Geeta with 9 patents. I've been a great fan of her work. I'm just hoping that next year, the innovators would jump out of the woman category. Also in the Mainstream Economic Times Awards, where there was not a single woman nominee across all categories except the woman category.
We'll note that.
I'm sorry, I just had to say this. Thank you.
Point taken. Thank you, Ms. Ganesh, for giving away the awards. And before we move on to our next category, which recognizes excellence in the functional domains, may I call upon Ms. Aisha De Siqueira, Co-Country Head and Head of Investment Banking, India, for Morgan Stanley, to kindly do the honors. The first in this category is the ETPrime Brand and Marketing Leader of the Year. This award honors an individual who has shown passion, skills, and leadership qualities to have an impact on businesses, people, and organizations in the brand and marketing functions. And the nominees in this category are Gayatri Yadav, President and Head, Consumer Strategy and Innovation, Star India. Kavita Chaturvedi, Head of Marketing, Foods Division, ITC Limited. Our third nominee is Pallavi Chopra, Head of Marketing for Redbus. Priya Nair, Executive Director, Home Care for Hindustan Unilever. And our final nominee in this category is Ritu Gupta, Marketing Director, India, Australia, and New Zealand for Dell. And the winner in this category is Ms. Gayatri Yadav. Ms. Yadav has been promoting Star TV's major initiatives and has led marketing for the network's biggest and boldest moves, including Satyamev Jayate. She has also worked on the revamp and expansion of Star Sports, the launch of Hotstar, and the Nai Soch campaign for Star Plus. Securing Vivo IPL has been another feather in her crowded cap. Congratulations, Gayatri. And before you go, one quick question. What is it that one attribute that marketers need to keep in mind for charming tomorrow's consumers?
Thank you. And it's wonderful to be here, and it's especially special to get the award from Aisha. The one attribute, not just for tomorrow's consumers, but for today's consumers, and if I look back at my marketing career and when I started as a young brand manager in P&G, oh so long back, 25 years back, we were all told that the mantra was differentiation, which is create and communicate a difference. And I worked about 18 years in FMCG, and then I joined Star 8 years back, and I thought, differentiation is not enough. You have to disrupt, because here's a product that's changing every second, every day. So the advice I would give all marketers and all business leaders is, you know, you need to be future ready. You need to constantly challenge status quo. There's danger, as Aisha said, in the comfort zone. You need to wake up every day and challenge almost every notion you hold, and that's really the only way to stay continuously relevant, which is a cornerstone of marketing, as well as innovative. If you do those two things, you know, you can't lose. So future ready would be the advice to all marketers and business leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Gayatri. Our next award is for the ETPrime Finance Leader of the Year. The award recognizes functional heads in the finance domain who have shown the passion, skills, and leadership qualities to bring about an impact on business, people, and organizations. And the nominees for this category include Anita Sanghi, Global Chief Financial Officer, Infrastructure and Cloud Computing, NTT Data Incorporated. Our second nominee is Jayashree Satagopan, Executive Vice President and Chief Financial Officer, Coromandel International. Pinky Mehta, Chief Financial Officer, Aditya Birla Capital, is our next nominee. We also have Rashmi Joshi, Chief Financial Officer and Whole-Time Director, Castrol India, as our next nominee. Tanushri Bagrodia, Chief Financial Officer and Vice President IT, NRB Bearings, is also there in this category. And the final nominee is Vibha Padalkar, Chief Executive Director and Chief Financial Officer, HDFC Standard Life. And the award goes to Ms. Vibha Padalkar. Ms. Padalkar has straddled the finance, investor relations, legal, secretarial, and compliance, internal audit, and risk functions at the company, and has led from the front in each of these crucial roles. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Vibha Padalkar. Congratulations, Vibha. Now that you are the CEO, what is that one piece of advice that you would like to give your CFO self?
Well, my CFO is going to take all the stress that I took over decades and decades. And you know what they say about good cop, bad cops? I'm right now enjoying being the good cop.
Oh, lovely. That's heartening to know. Thank you, Vibha. The next award in this category is in the HR domain, and the award recognizes a leader above 35 years who has shown the passion, skills, and leadership qualities to bring lasting impact in the HR function. And the nominees in this category are Alka Mittal, Director HR, ONGC, Amita Maheshwari, President and Head, HR, Star TV India, Anuranjita Kumar, Managing Director, HR, International Hubs, RBS, Imrana Sheikh, Enterprise HR Head, India and South Asia, Johnson & Johnson. And the final nominee in this category is Preeti Gupta, Group Executive President, Aditya Birla Group. And the award goes to Ms. Preeti Gupta, Group Executive President, Aditya Birla Group. Ms. Gupta has been with the Aditya Birla Group for almost 20 years in pivotal leadership roles. She has overhauled compensation practices and provided role clarity to senior executives. She has made audits focus on strategy alignment, process improvement, and identifying critical aspects that need a review for better functioning. Let's hear it loud and clear from Ms. Gupta. Preeti, congratulations. You handle talent across a diverse group. What is that one skill that will help a millennial adapt to a workplace of the future?
I think thinking multi-generational, multi-country, multicultural, and finding the commonality across is what's useful. So I think being in India, that is really helpful to us, that we are flexible, so we know how to work across countries. And I think for multi-generational, you have to remember, everybody was 20 someday. If they've turned 50 today, that doesn't mean they haven't come through the paces. So it's the same issues, the same pieces. I think the comedian earlier said that, your parent to your parent. So, and I think...
yes, the child is the father of man, after all, yes.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Preeti. And the final award in the functional category is the ETPrime Technology Leader of the Year. This award acknowledges an individual above 35 years who has operated at the cutting edge of technology as a CTO, CIO, or head of engineering that would have given the organization a competitive advantage. And the nominees are Aarti Subramanian, Chief Digital Officer, Tata Sons; Annie Matthews, CIO, Mother Dairy; Aruna Rao, CTO for the Kotak Group; Asha Paulos Johnson, Digital Transformation Leader, VP and Head of Edge Digital Hub for GE Digital Hub; and Harmeen Mehta, Global CIO, Head of Digital, Airtel. And the winner in this category is Ms. Aarti Subramanian, Chief Digital Officer, Tata Sons. She has successfully teamed up with CEOs of all Tata companies to identify businesses that can be grown digitally. A perfectionist, her milestones at TCS include setting up the first Center of Excellence for SAP. Unfortunately, Ms. Subramanian could not join us today. Nevertheless, a round of applause for her, please. Thank you, Aisha, for doing the honors. Thank you. And now, may I request Ms. Anu Aga to give away the next award. The next award is called Beyond Business, and as you guessed it, this honors a leader who has revolutionized the way social initiatives are delivered and has made an impact to the welfare of the society at large. And the nominees in this category are Bindu Anand, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Dwara Trust; Neerja Birla, Founder and Partner, Empower; Preeti Herman, Global Executive Director, Change.org; Dr. Rukmini Banerjee, Chief Executive Officer, Pratham Education Foundation; and Safina Hussain, Founder and Executive Director, Educate Girls. And the Beyond Business winner is Ms. Safina Hussain. Ms. Hussain has helped more than 200,000 out-of-school girls in India become a part of the education system. Educate Girls that she set up has initiated the world's first development impact bond program that far surpassed targets. It helped ensure higher attendance and improved school infrastructure, quality of education, and learning outcomes. A round of applause for Ms. Safina Hussain, please. Congratulations, Safina. That's a commendable enterprise that you've built. What is that one message that you would want to give to young girls out there?
A message that I'd like to give the young girls, believe in yourself, but also a message to everybody. Investing in girls and women is really the battle of our lifetime. It helps to solve 9 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. It was rated number 6 out of 80 actions to fight climate change. And it's something that you just have to do once. An educated mother is 200% more likely to educate her children.
Thank you, Ms. Aga, for felicitating the winner. At home and abroad, Indian women have been going places, and it has truly been a phenomenal year for the community. In fact, our next award, the Global Indian of the Year Award, acknowledges one such woman leader who has embraced a global perspective and promoted the growth of international business. The winner's experience has spanned across diverse cultures and has had a strong commercial impact by leveraging opportunities across countries and regions. And the nominees for the Global Indian of the Year are Chandrika Tandon, Chairperson, Tandon Capital Associates; Geeta Gopinath, Chief Economist for the International Monetary Fund; Indra Nui, former Chairman, PepsiCo from 2006 to 2018; Leena Nair, CHRO for Unilever; and Padmasri Warrior, former CEO for NIO US. And the ETPrime Global Indian of the Year is Ms. Indra Nui. Ms. Nui served at PepsiCo for 24 years, with 12 years as the Chief Executive Officer before stepping down last year. She's played a pivotal role in PepsiCo's acquisition of Tropicana and merger with Quaker Oats Company, which resulted in the company's expansion into healthy snacks. She's one of the few women to run an S&P 500 company and is an exemplary business leader. Unfortunately, Ms. Nui couldn't join us today to receive the award, but let's take a look at the message that she's sent us.
Hello everyone and namaskar. Let me start by saying a part of me always wishes I could be back home in India, but that's especially true tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't make it in person, but I'm honored and humbled to receive this award. And I'm so grateful to the Economic Times, ETPrime, and your distinguished jury for selecting me. Let me also congratulate all of tonight's winners. I was so glad to learn that this event is celebrating women at all levels of industry, not just CEOs, but also innovators in marketing and HR and everything in between. You know, as a young girl in Madras, I never dreamed I would one day become chairman and CEO of PepsiCo. And that's in part because I didn't have any role models who looked like me. So a big thank you to all of the women being honored tonight for showing the next generation of Indian women from Mumbai to Pune to Patna that they can be leaders too. Thank you.
Such inspiring words that they can be leaders too. A round of applause for Ms. Indra Nui, ladies and gentlemen. And to give away the next set of awards, may I request Ms. Rekha Menon of Accenture to join us on stage. Our next award is ETPrime Woman Entrepreneur of the Year. And this award recognizes a business owner or founder of an organization who has led progressive change in adopting an effective business model or has set up a new benchmark in the industry. And the nominees include Anu Acharya, founder Map My Genome; Falguni Nair, founder and chief executive officer, Nykaa; Rashmi Daga, founder, Fresh Menu; Ruchi Kalra, co-founder of Business; and Shuchi Mukherjee, founder and chief executive officer, LimeRoad. And the winner is Ms. Rashmi Daga of Fresh Menu. Ms. Daga has successfully built a credible brand in the food tech business with Fresh Menu. The startup has a presence in metros with its own kitchens, chefs, and delivery boys. Rashmi, congratulations. So what's cooking on your menu next?
Actually, food's such a big ocean that our menu keeps cooking all the time. And I think even in your sleep, you're cooking up some food these days. So yeah, that's what we're cooking.
So more food for thought.
Absolutely.
Oh, lovely. That sounds delicious. Thank you, Rashmi. Moving on to our next category, which is the ETPrime Woman CEO of the Year. This award honors a leader who has consistently demonstrated clarity of vision, judgment, and motivational skills that have transformed and empowered the organization. And the nominees here are Alice Vaidyan, Chairman and Managing Director, General Insurance Corporation of India; Debaroti Sen, Managing Director, 3M India Limited; Kalpana Morparia, Chief Executive Officer, South and Southeast Asia for JP Morgan Chase; Renu Sood Karnad, Managing Director, HDFC Limited; and Shweta Jalan, Managing Director, Advent India PE Advisors. And the ETPrime Woman CEO of the Year is Ms. Alice Vaidyan. Ms. Vaidyan is the first woman chief managing director in the public sector insurance industry non-life. She has over 30 years experience in the Indian insurance and reinsurance industry, and during her years at the helm, GIC Reinsurance premium business has surged, making it the undisputed market leader. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for ETPrime Woman CEO of the Year, Ms. Alice Vaidyan. Alice, congratulations. You've shattered the glass ceiling, like, truly. What has been your motivation for the past 30 years?
I think it's just a passion for work, and family is my biggest motivation. In fact, I'll say that family is my biggest source of support. In fact, my husband is also here.
Yes, yes.
My husband is my best critic and my biggest supporter. And so also are my children. So I think that is what keeps me going.
And moving on to the penultimate category, which is the ETPrime Businesswoman of the Year. This award recognizes and celebrates those business achievements and professional qualities of an individual that has helped them progress their careers and business ideas and built a support network of like-minded people to learn, grow, and connect with. And the nominees in this category are Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, Chairperson Biocon; Malika Srinivasan, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer for Tractors and Farm Equipment; Meera Kulkarni, Chairman and Managing Director, Mountain Valley Springs Forest Essentials; Priya Paul, Director, APJ Surendra Group; and Zia Modi, Managing Partner, AZB and Partners. And we have two winners in this category. The first winner, ETPrime Businesswoman of the Year, Private Limited, is Meera Kulkarni. A round of applause for Ms. Kulkarni. She has single-handedly pioneered the luxury Ayurveda market in India and has grown Mountain Valley Springs Forest Essentials to over rupees 150 crore turnover in a span of 18 years. She has brought Estee Lauder as an investor in India's beauty and personal care market for the first time and has stayed ahead of competitors in terms of visibility. Congratulations, Meera. And quickly, tell us, what is that X factor that Indian companies need to be able to get onto the global stage?
I think as far as we're concerned, it was, we brought into the market a new category that didn't exist at all which was luxury Ayurveda. And I think it is the fact that quality anywhere is a defining factor. So if that is the cornerstone of any business, and you can't go wrong with that.
You can't go wrong with
Thank you.
Quality rules. And our next winner, the ETPrime Businesswoman of the Year public, is Ms. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, the chairperson of Biocon. She runs the largest biopharma company in India, which has invested heavily in biotech R&D. Biocon, that was founded in 1978, is the first Indian company to commercialize a biosimilar in the United States and launch an anti-cancer drug in India. She has led Biocon's successful $11.1 billion IPO in 2004 and has helped diversify Biocon from enzymes to biopharma products. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Ms. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. Congratulations, ma'am. One quick take from you. You have been an inspiration to many Indian women to pursue science. What more do you think can be done to encourage scientific temperament and entrepreneurship among young girls?
Well, I think if young women realize that science doesn't have any gender barriers and that it's about creativity and innovation, I think you'll see a lot more women pursuing science as something that is great for the future of not just their own selves, but for the country.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Rekha, for doing the honors. And before we move on to the next category, may I request Mr. Gautam Sinha, Chief Executive Officer, Times Internet Limited, to give away the Lifetime Achievement Award. This award is reserved for an individual who has made significant contribution to the industry at large through outstanding leadership and demonstrated originality and vision. And the nominees are Anu Aga, Chairperson Thermax, Meenakshi Saraugi, Chief Mentor for Balrampur Chini, Meera Sanyal, posthumous, Ritu Kumar, founder Ritu Kumar Designs, Shahnaz Hussain, founder and managing director, the Shahnaz Hussain Group. And there are two winners in this category. Our first winner is Ms. Meera Sanyal, and it's a posthumous award. The late Ms. Sanyal had a stellar career that spanned over 3 decades. As a banker, she handled several restructuring mandates at ANZ Greenless, Lazard, and ABN AMRO, and Royal Bank of Scotland. She left an indelible mark in politics as well, actively campaigning for civic issues in Mumbai. May I request Ms. Zenobia Patakia, her longtime associate, to receive the award on the family's behalf. Ladies and gentlemen, Meera Sanyal lives on among us through her achievements and accomplishments. And now the second winner in this category is none other than Ms. Anu Aga, who continues to be an inspiration to millions of girls and women. An extraordinary and exemplary leader, she steered Thermax's turnaround and laid the foundation of its international business. A philanthropist to the core, she remains the key force at the Thermax Foundation, which focuses on quality primary education for the underprivileged. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Ms. Anu Aga. Congratulations, Ms. Aga. Thank you, Gautam. And that's not all. We now have some music by Mumbai's famous band, Dharavi Reloaded, a music project that gives kids from Dharavi a platform to express themselves. A junk percussions band, they have created music from waste material found in the slums, highlighting the use of recycle, reuse, and respect. And without further delay, let me give the stage to Abhijit Jejurikar, who has been teaching and mentoring the band for almost a decade now. But before we have music and lyrics here, could we please have all the winners back on stage for a group photograph? Quite a powerful frame. Thank you, ladies. And we have Dharavi Reloaded with us. They are going to regale us with some music. So it's over to Abhijit and his boys from Dharavi. Let's hear it from them now. Thank you.
महाराष्ट्र के कोस्ट पर बसा है India's financial hub, Mumbai. It's known for containing many cities within itself. ये उनमें से एक ऐसी सिटी है जहां 10 लाख लोग रहते हैं. With an area of 400 acres, this is one of the biggest slums of Asia. यहाँ surprisingly मुंबई का 80% plastic recycle होता है. 15,000 single-room factories operate daily to recreate lives, dreams, and happiness from the city's waste, all with a smile. So welcome to Dharavi, Recycling Central.
Dharavi Reloaded, which is a band of amazingly talented slum kids from Dharavi, and we create music on all the recycled material that is available in Dharavi. Just make music out of all that we have around and not use any traditional instruments. So let's have like drum barrels, plastic cans, buckets, like probably empty bottles, put some rice or sand into it and make it sound like a shaker, and just use all the recycled material that we have. And then we started doing, sure, can I get some talent out of them? Because I know they have it. It's there in everyone. You just have to guide them and shape them and just get it on the table and just present it.
बहुत बधाई आपको, बहुत अच्छा।
थैंक यू सर।
आपको बहुत बहुत बधाई, इतना तरक्की करते हुए।
थैंक यू सर।
यही नहीं, फ्लाइट में जाना तो वहाँ
बच्चों के साथ एक ग्रुप फोटो ले लो। सिर्फ बच्चे।
I think these kids really represent the true spirit of Mumbai and India. So let's give a big round of applause for their positivity, for their spirit that continues to live within all of us in Mumbai.
I had heard about them, but I'd never seen them perform in person. When I was told how they go about what they do and the efforts that they put into it and how they use all the recyclable stuff, and to find so much motivation from literally nowhere is very inspiring. I see no excuses there. They are happy with what they have been given by God, and they are making great use of it, and they are inspiring so many people. So I totally love watching them perform.
These guys are super amazing.
Any particular message you want to give young musicians in India that, you know, I mean, your journey's been spectacular, so...
keep making music. I've just been given this card from this dude about the Arabi Rocks, and these kids...
Yes, Arabi, yeah, it's brilliant.
These kids all make music on anything. So the thing that I would say is find anything to make music with. It doesn't have to be a guitar, doesn't have to be a piano, it can be anything. Just make music and have fun with it.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Come on, yeah. अरे यार हमको कुछ award नहीं मिला इसलिए तालियां नहीं बजा रहे. Come on, guys, yeah, come on, give it up for all these kids. Come on, come on, come on. All right, now time to loosen up. I know you guys are all like, you know, wearing all the suits and everything, but time to loosen up. This is Dharavi Reloaded. And बच्चे लोग तुम लोग ready होगी नहीं? Yes. अरे वाह, come on, ready? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Hi! खुल के बोल, दिल से बोल, धारावी के संग तू बोल. खुल के बोल, दिल से बोल, धारावी के संग तू बोल. All right, we'll ask them to sing. Can you cut down the monitors because it's booming? All right, you people, okay, we'll see. Kul ke bol, dil se bol, dharavi ke sang tu bol. Oh my God. Arey yaar. I mean, dinner hai iske baad, but come on, yeah. Sing with us, yeah, come on. Kul ke bol, dil se bol, dharavi ke sang tu bol. Yeah, that's more like it. Dharavi ke sang tu bol. धारावी के संग तू डोल. Nice. खुल के बोल, दिल से बोल. Let's go, धारावी.
All right. तो उड़ गई नींद रे जो कान की पहला मस्ती में कान 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 क्या रे हम्मा 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 ए हम्मा 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 ए हम्मा 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 ए हम्मा हम्मा 1 2 3 Ready? 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 All right. Okay, cool. Maza aa raha hai? Are you guys enjoying yourself? Yeah? All right. What we'll do is we'll do a little jugalbandi with all of you. Okay? Let's see. Dharavi Reloaded versus all of you. Okay? So what you have to do is you just have to clap with me like this. Like 1, 2, 3. Everyone, come on. There you go. Keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. And on the count of 4, you have to stop as well, but keep on going. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop. Stop. Okay, awesome, awesome. So first, Dharavi Reloaded, and you guys, and we'll see how it goes. Ready? Yeah? All right. 1, 2, Dharavi, go! Keep on going, that's nice. Superb. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Nice. 3, 4. 3, 4. Nice. 3, 4. 3, 4. 3, 4. 3, 4. 3, 4. All right, nice. How lovely. How lovely. Amazing. Give a round of applause to yourself, yeah? Come on. 1, 2, there we